Okay. Fucking explodes. That's a good one. Alright. Then what? This is the Throneroom stage. Step closer to the crown. From Protoss to Terran. From second place to first. The Shambler ended the first Acropolis on a somber note. But as the battlement stage has shown, he has returned with a style all unto his own. He cut his Terran teeth in a flawless group run against a pair of Zergs. And now, a third challenger approaches. In a tournament crawling with members of the anti-Shambler Society, will Exodia finally be assembled? Well, not if this guy has anything to say about it. After 2 premiere showings on off races, Hamster returns to where it all began. Zerg. The Russian showman is happy to drag games on to the end times, showcasing a thorough understanding of the expansive unit roster, and bringing to bear the full power of the swarming race. His upcoming match is set to be tough, but acting as the embodiment of chaos, Hamster may yet level the playing field. Are we seeing the rise of a new tournament contender? Statement wins over reigning champion Neblime brought HitEmUp to the top of his group. After qualifying to the tournament and dispensing with Champion of Champions mystery meat in the process, this Venezuelan Terran has it all. As the heavy favorite in his Throneroom debut, HitEmUp is expected to sail on smoothly into the semifinals. Will it be so simple for the man without much practice? Or will the underdog become the pit bull? By all accounts, Kenoli wasn't supposed to get this far, paving the way to his battlement's debut with the blood of many a fallen Protoss. This upstart Zerg doubled down on his Cinderella storyline, pushing HitEmUp into a defensive posture in a tight Zerg mirror. Before ascending to glory over fellow Zerg Jarl Storm. With virtually no matches against Terrans, this should be where his luck runs out. But maybe you can make your own luck. The Shambler. Hamster. HitEmUp. Kenoli. Throneroom. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Throneroom Day 2. Acropolis number 2 continues. And I have it on good authority that we are going to see some very cool matches. Today, we're going to be seeing 2 more quarterfinals, the last of the first round. It's going to be the Shambler taking on Hamster TVZ. And if you were tired of TVZ after this series, well, I stick around anyway because it's going to be HitEmUp taking on Kenoli for yet another TVZ. I hope you guys are excited because I'm pretty sure this first match is going to be a banger. And I also have been noticing that a certain somebody in that second quarterfinal match today is going to be, let's just say there's been some preparations, and I'm very excited to see what those turn out to be. I'll quickly get you up to speed on the veto for our first match, as the veto has already been decided. As we take a look at our expansive map pool for Acropolis number 2, I want you guys to take note of the fact that Genesis Y is our first map. Shambler ends up vetoing Spinal Tap and picking Genesis Y. Hamster vetoes Demaloon and goes for Near Impact. So we will be seeing some nice 2-spawners. In fact, our third map is also going to be a 2-spawn, with Check Stealer and Rage Slave being vetoed by Shambler and Hamster respectively. Leaves us with Muspelheim as the pick for the Shambler. A bit of an interesting one, because usually that's favored for Zerg, but Shambler must have some thoughts. Of course, we will pick his brains before our match begins, considering we do have time for that interview. Blackwater Bastion will be our fourth map if we need it. It is picked by Hamster, and our final map, Paradise, also selected by the Shambler, will be our go-to destination for Game 5, should it matter. Ladies and gentlemen, Acropolis number 2 continues. And all right, I guess with that all out of the way, it's probably a good idea to take a look at the Shambler more in depth, and by look, I mean listen, because we're going to bring him on in. Shambler, welcome to the casting booth. How are you feeling today for quarterfinal day 2? We're going to be going into, of course, your match against Hamster. You feeling good?
Yeah, actually, I thought I had some nerves coming in, but I watched the hype video, and that actually quieted them down. So,
See?
feeling restored.
I like that. I like that. So, with all that said, that must mean that you're feeling like, just based on that, you reminded yourself of the game plan. Exodia must be assembled. Is that right?
Well, if we get that far, yeah, Exodia must be assembled eventually. But we'll see.
If we get that far, imposing words, perhaps. Okay, well, I wanted to pick your brains about the veto, because it makes sense for Check Stealer to get vetoed. Maybe a bit surprised you ended up going for Spinal Tap first. What was your thought process behind banning that? Just not a fan of rampless maps?
Pretty much. I think like if Check Stealer had a bit of high ground that the Terrans could sort of camp on, I'd actually be okay with it. I don't actually have that much of a problem, except for the low gas count with the easy bases there. So it's always just been the ramp issue on that, because you sort of need the ramp for actually build anything to start with successfully as Terran versus Zerg, I feel.
Well, it's definitely interesting to think about the way that the early game can be mutated if you don't have that ramp to get a little bit of extra advantage for holds. That being said, you have been taking it to Zergs when it comes to the strategies in the early stages of the game. So in that situation, you must be pretty comfy with the 2-spawn maps that we've opened up with. I wanted to ask you about Muspelheim, because everybody's telling me conventional wisdom, if you will, among the community says that this is a really good map for Zerg because they might be the most easy, the ones who can most easily take the back base there behind the Iron Foundry. Plus, you got to watch out for Matroliths infesting it. You're kind of maybe worried about that if you're going up against Zerg, but you ended up picking it against Hamster. You just feel like you have that map figured out?
I don't really think it's really Zerg favored. The fact that you can take a base, and because as Terran, you just have to blindly build the AA. So it's not really a problem unless they're playing a drop style, which I know Hamster likes to do. So maybe he'll into that, but I'm sort of expecting that. I know what to look out for that sort of style. But being able to just take 2 bases, being able to safely get 3 base gassed is really good, especially for Exodia if the game goes long. Just very defensible. You don't have to defend multiple angles on their 3 base like you usually do on something like Blackwater Bastion, where it's like you take that third and now your tank line is spread. There's room to poke from Bactylisks and other things that will force you to hemorrhage forces that would otherwise be better used elsewhere.
You did score a win versus Art of Turtle on Near Impact back in your group. You actually selected that map into him in your Battlements group, so you must not be too miffed about that being Hamster's pick. But I did want to ask you a little bit about Blackwater Bastion and, of course, Paradise, the last 2 maps, if we even need them. In this kind of routine, it might feel a little bit Zerg favored on these 4-spawn maps. You obviously ended up electing to pick Paradise, but just your thoughts on those 2 maps in general, how the matchup plays out, and you did give us a little bit of thoughts about the positionality of a 3rd base. But, the Blackwater Bastion is also the map that you clinched against the Night Fox, and that one was maybe closer than you would have liked. In that kind of situation, how are you feeling about those 4-spawn maps to potentially end the series?
They're okay. I like Paradise a lot more than Blackwater because the spokes allow Terran to have a bit of an advantage in actually, setting up. It really makes it hard for the Zerg to either bypass you or to push on you particularly hard once you get actually established. There's no mega surrounds that are enabled, unlike on Blackwater, which is a lot more open. And the way Zerg works in terms of the push is that, again, they want to dive in, do some good trades, and then pull back, whether it's against Exodia or with the Apostles or just in general. I generally feel that's how the Zerg should operate: is burn your chaff, maintain your artillery line, get good trades with your artillery line, and just leave. And you just do that across the map. But that's a lot harder to do on Paradise versus Terran because the height advantage of the Terran. And the Terran can storm the height advantage easy. And not easier, but more successfully. It's not as much of a problem to storm it as it is for the Zerg. Gotcha. Because if the Zerg tries to storm it with their artillery, well, all of a sudden they don't have the artillery advantage because the Terran artillery can shoot all the way to their backline, no problem. There's probably gonna be no tanks that are out of position or can be easily sniped. So you end up trading pretty well and reducing the artillery ball. So I'm pretty pleased actually with how the pick bans went. Are they close to ideal? Maybe swap out Blackwater with Rage Slave, but otherwise, it's pretty good.
Okay.
Pretty good set here. I'm happy with it.
Well, feeling good as you are, I do have to ask you a little bit of a question now. Your prediction for the series. You confident going in, looking at the veto as well, feeling like you're going to get this one? Say, is it going to be 3-0, 3-1, 3-2? You predicting yourself to take it?
If Hamster hasn't changed anything since last I played him, even though he is the most creative Zerg, I take this 3-0 and just continue with the other front runners in that way. If he's changed it up, and I don't really know how he can, but again, he is the most creative Zerg. I've been fighting his style and the more traditional Zerg styles. Now HitEmUp's been talking about like, oh, we've been talking in the Ash chat and all that. And I'm like, okay, well, yes, but I haven't seen any of this. I haven't even seen him ping for games all that often. So unless they're having these secret practice matches in the Ash chat, I don't see how he's had the time, based off the patterns of his pings in the Fraud Monarch channel, to grind anything out. But if he does, then I still think I can adapt to it and deal with it. I've been doing my own. I'm not just a one-trick pony, no matter what HitEmUp would like to think.
Okay.
I was the bio guy before this. I simply switched to this because I saw it as way more efficient. You know, just in general as an all-rounder build. So
we might yet see some bio. We might yet see some bio. All right. Well, Shambler, I'm looking forward to seeing what you got cooking. I'm obviously looking forward to seeing what Hamster's Chaos can sow. In that situation, Genesis YR starter, we will see you on the battlefield. Closing words, final thoughts?
I'll do this to you, Hamster. You're a great guy. I hope you kill everyone in the lower bracket.
Ah, okay. Some words of passion there from the Shambler. All right, man. Good luck, and we'll see you soon. I'm sure you'll stick around for the closing interview after, so we'll talk to you then.
GG.
With all that said, ladies and gentlemen, we're just about ready to get our match underway. The players should vacate the stream, as much as I appreciate the viewer numbers being pumped up. And if you're watching this, feel free to drop a like on it or send us some money or whatever you like. You know all the links in the description and stuff. We've got it ready for our players, so we are about to get into our match. It's going to be the Shambler taking on Hamster, Genesis Y, our first battleground. And as we jump into things here, the Shambler will be our red Terran in the top right. And in the bottom right, we have our Russian green Zerg, it's Hamster. All right, I'm feeling pretty happy about this series. I'm very curious as to what we're about to see. Hamster did not want to stick around for an interview, and Hamster doesn't really want to stick around in this game in general. He's going straight for the 6th pool, baby. All right. Okay, so we are going to see some early antics, and Hamster is going up against a Fulcrum opening. This might be the best opening you can go up to when you're going for the 6th pool. It is probably going to be Zethricor's if I just had to blindly speculate. His pool a little over halfway done now. Honestly, that could be a nice little way to get a score on the board. If Hamster is able to take one of these first 2 maps, if he takes us to the point where we actually have Blackwater Bastion being played, I would say Hamster could definitely win the whole series, or at the very least force us to 5 games. A lot is going to be hinging on this match, though. He cancels that Droll, goes straight for the 3 and then 4th pair of Zets. He has prepared this timing to an impeccable level. He's actually going to have 1 extra pair of Zets than you would normally have with this push because of his Larva management in the early game. You have to get hyped about this one. What a cool play. Okay, Shambler Scout is going to reveal this. As the worker ends up leaving the base, he's going to go ahead and drop a hatch at the same time as
as the Zets come in, and Shambler doesn't pull his Mason in time, so he's not going to be able to stall them from moving across the map. What is Shambler's crisis response? Immediately putting an anchor down in the mineral line. Vulture halfway done, going to be laying some mines, and it should be able to finish everything that he needs before these Zets get in. So it's going to come down to the follow-up, and it's going to be a more macro-oriented follow-up as he drops the hatch. I'm sure that Shambler's Mason saw that. At least saw the move out coming in. Now you gotta watch out because the Vulture could get stunned by the lobotomy mine. It does! It does! Disaster for the Shambler as he gets stunned by his own mine, hoisted by his own petard. He's got one Vulture that can come out of that fulcrum, but nothing can staff this anchor that's been made. The body block out of Hamster's Zetra course. He's got to run around. He will be able to make it in to that anchor. No! He's loaded it with Masons! Oh, Shambler's made a huge error. He's loaded his anchor full of Masons. In a crisis moment, he's now being torn asunder by the 8 Zethra cores that are inside his base. I can't believe what I'm seeing, folks. That other Vulture does manage to get in, but a lot of Masons have gone down, and oh my lord. We will see a little bit of a calm because we're down to 7 Masons for the Shambler. Well, he says, silly mistake. Good one. And, well, he's sticking it out. He's not going to actually leave the game, probably, Hamster says, as he is curious as to why that anchor didn't get loaded a lot sooner. Well, now Hamster's sitting pretty. He's got the worker advantage. A Larvos coming for 3 larvae per rotation. A little bit low on money, of course, as you might expect after that kind of 6 pull, but he can start to staff the workers in his natural. My God, my goodness. Can't believe what I'm seeing here. All right. So the mines are going to be laid and maybe a bit more respected. That was really the losing the Vulture in the early stages of that match with the lobotomy mine friendly fire there is pretty bad, right? But the 4 Masons getting inside the anchor and blocking the Vulture from entering it, that was probably the worst thing. That was probably the biggest issue. One thing I do kind of like about what Hamster is doing, he's kind of expecting the Vultures to come on in and maybe even baiting them in with that one worker. And now the Vultures are going to get got a little bit here. He tried to maybe reveal that worker, saves it with a good burrow. You can reveal burrowed units by standing on them in Cosmonarchy, so it's a little bit different. This anchor probably should be lifted. I mean, it is delaying a little bit of the mineral mining efficiency from those top patches, so Shambler doing that a little bit late. Vornath coming, little bit of extra gas being banked and then turned into another Larvosk. He does have a more defensively minded Kagrant being put down in the natural. Okay, I'm very, very pleased that we're already getting some chaos. Hamster is ahead, but maybe not as much as he would have liked to have been, considering he didn't just win the game off of those early Zeths. That being said, he is making quite a few. The Vornath coming, a lot more Zeths coming. I'm guessing this is going to be a Vornath, a Vorvacor bust. So there's going to be Zeth Vorv and some Quaz to see about dealing with this. Now, at this point, playing from behind, this is going to be a very unfamiliar game state for the Shambler. What is he going to do with the fact that these Fulcrums are indeed not up and running on the normal schedule? Does he know how to play out from this position, still keeping that flowchart in mind? Couple Forbs being made by Hamster. They are indeed moving across the map. There's plenty of Zets, plenty of Quaz. This looks like a large number of units, but you got to respect the minefield, although nothing out here to defend those mines and actually capitalize upon those stuns that are in waiting. Shambler actually leaving a bunch of mines over here to anticipate any sort of drops, but we don't have an Ovaleth coming for Hamster. He will go ahead and start clearing out some of the mines. He hasn't actually attack moved here, so none of the attack there's no notifications here for the Shambler. He hasn't really paid attention too much to that position. Now, the Cyclops inside the anchor are very, very deadly, but Hamster is not going to be deterred. He immediately surrounds the anchor. He will go ahead and take care of that splash damage. And look, another friendly fire stun going to catch that Cyclops and take it out of commission. That's the limited friendly fire and AoE that Shambler actually has. He's pulling back to those mines that are off in downtown, but despite all of the mines in every location, we've got more Zets coming on in. This feels like the logical conclusion to this match. The Vulture's getting cleaned up in the bottom of that area, and now the Cyclops are they're well and truly busted is what it feels like. Now just using that friendly fire to pick apart the Mason line. Hamster is indeed going to be narrowly ahead in workers by the end of this, but GG is called. First match going the way of the Zerg. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was a very cool opening match. I really love that it didn't just immediately end either. Like, there did need to be a little bit of effort put into it by Hamster to finish the job, but he set himself up so nicely. Now we go on to Near Impact. Taking a look at that map, this was selected by Hamster. He clearly did not want to let the Shambler be comfortable. And, he maybe even heard that interview and was able to think, oh, he said that his nerves are quashed. Well, let me just 6-pool and see what happens. So off the back of a 6-pool, Hamster scores the first dub. Very cool. That is definitely a change-up. Shambler was saying maybe Hamster's going to change it up, and then he can beat me. But that's not how it not how it worked out. Not how it worked out. We're going to wait for the ready from our players. And we're going to go ahead and be moving on to Near Impact for map number 2. GLHF, RR, Near Impact. That's where we're heading. The readies are exchanged. And we've got the Shambler, once again, rocking it out here as the Red Terran in the top left. Hamster in the bottom right as the Russian Green Zerg. I feel like maybe we need extra high with this particular group because we are connecting Texas to Massachusetts to Russia. So, yeah, and I'm pretty sure Hamster's kind of far east on the Russian side, too. It's not even like the more western side. So, you know, the internet being a series of tubes and all, it can be a little bit difficult to get that connection going. Nonetheless, Stockade coming down. Shambler already changing things up, wants to be a little bit more perhaps resistant to the early pool. And it is actually going to be an early pool, but this time it's going to be an 8 pool. And the gas being mined means that this is going to be pool Larvosk. So that's kind of interesting. Remember, if you go for like really aggressive tech structure first builds as Zerg, you're not going to have the larva that you need to build a lot of military. Even if you cut all worker production, you still only have 1 military unit every 14 seconds. You contrast that to somebody like the Shambler who's going to build a couple stockades or a couple fulcrums or whatever it may be. They're going to have a lot more throughput in their military than you are as the Zerg player. So you do need that Larvosk or the Hatch if you're going to go for that. The most people go for the Larvosk. And with that already coming in, the Shambler will scout and see that the pool is, well, it's nearing completion, but the Larvosk is coming, so it's not nearly as aggressive as before. We're going to get that 1 stockade to make a Maverick. That will hunt down the worker that has scouted the Shambler's position. And, of course, we've got the Fulcrum. It's about a quarter of the way done. A little bit of worker harassment. And, yeah, that Mason is not really going to be able to get too much done. Same deal with this over here. Brutality. No shambling the Shambler. A couple of Quasilisks are now out here for Hamster. He's continuing to extend his Kagra forward to the ramp. I don't hate this idea that Zergs are starting to do in general. They spread the Kagra closer, and it does also give them a little bit more like safety if they need to immediately pull down a K-Grunt over here for Circuith or whatever. They can do so that they can defend a sudden ramp push on one base. You don't really want to be in that kind of position as Zerg, but it helps to have the tool at your disposal. Cyclops on the way for the Shambler. He does favor that splash damage. And indeed, look at that. A second Fulcrum already en route. I wonder if the Stockade is a response to the early pool, or if it's just, he actually is just going to go into like Vestry faster as opposed to going the pure like Fulcrum Anseal. Because if you can get to Fulcrum Anseal Shaman, it is such a ridiculously tanky, sustain-oriented composition. So it's something that Shambler wants to try to assemble. That's for sure. All right, the Vornath pool is coming. Vornath pond is coming on one base, no less. Hamster not thinking about taking an expansion anytime soon, playing it out a little bit more teched out. And, you know, with the fact that there's going to be a third Cyclops, I don't hate Vorvs, I don't hate Naths. In this kind of situation, you can indeed get on top of the Terran military and use their splash against them. But the Vestry is on the way, and so that is going to make it a lot harder once that AoE comes on down, immediately going into 2 scrapyards. Okay, well, Shambler is going to be going ahead and leveraging the strength of the Blackjack. Ah, Vornath into Zork is again on one base. Hamster definitely planning some kind of very specific timing attack. I don't know if he's cooking something. We'll see what flavor it is. Starpad all the way for the Shambler. So he is going for this one base timing attack. It's been said that after his one base attack, he does tend to be a little bit on the greedier side, trying to set himself up for tier 2 when he doesn't see an opening to get anything done. So the hold is going to come in on one base for Hamster, it looks like. He's already making the Vornaths, or the Vorv, of course. You know, he's got the one Zeth out in the middle of the map, watching out for the move out. I don't hate that either. Blackjack starting to be assembled. Yeah, with 3 Cyclops still there, 1 Hurakan, we're going to start to see Shamans. Still gas some gas banked here for an inevitable Anseal. So I guess all of his gas production is going to be Shaman Anseal, and then everything on the mineral side is going to be going into the Blackjacks, and of course padding the Mason count and eventually taking a Ministry for that expansion. Another Zeth going to move across the map as the Zeth and Vorv conga line begins to coalesce. Lots of minerals in the bank here for Hamster. I think he might be thinking about... He does go for Lakeism. He might just go Zoryus as the follow-up there to get a little bit more durability to his army. 3 Lakes can do a lot, but we are going to have detection between the Shaman and the Antseal. There's going to be plenty of vision for Shambler's mech army to really push out and do some damage. But Hamster may be thinking about moving across a little bit faster. He did send another Zeth somewhere, I'm assuming. Oh, no, there it is. It's burrowed off to the side. Again, with vision from the Antseal, that will be detected pretty easily if Shambler A moves over there, but it doesn't seem like he saw it. His units saw it, but your units are only as smart as the commander, you know? Same as computers only smart as the one using them. That kind of line, but for RTS units. As I see units derp out. Okay, so we do have the move out coming for the Shambler. It was spotted by that one Zeth. And this Zeth is not quite in vision of a ministry on location, so I don't know that Hamster is going to see that. If indeed it does come. Right now, Shambler keeping his money very low. Lake is thinking about getting set up. They can use cliff advantage here if they want to, but instead they're going to see about taking a bit more of an advanced move. No anti-air sans this one pair of Nathracores. Really not going to be able to do anything about these Antseals, so they're going to just try to overwhelm them. You can see Hamster pulling back, waits for some more Zeths to come out from the rally point. Now going to go sick on him. Now remember, there's 4 Lakes. One of them gets sniped down immediately. He needs to move these other ones closer in. He's not getting enough real good moves here. A Vorv and a Zeth come in from a flank, now burrowing right on top of him. I don't know that that's the best move. Zeths are going to come in and deal with that Shaman, but it feels like all the splash damage from Hamster was mostly dealt with before, realistically speaking, Shambler had to worry about anything. His heal is gone, except for the clerics, of course, but mass heal gone. Antseal did take some damage courtesy of the Cyclops, and maybe the Nath. I'm not really expecting that was the case. Hatch being set up here. Hamster does want to hold. 4 Lake is on the way. There's a very brief moment of time here that... Oh man, it feels like Shambler could have maybe pushed in, but he was worried about the Lake is on the high ground, and I don't blame him. Making some Vorvs now on location. Hamster is going to be a little bit vulnerable to a follow-up attack. A Shaman is going to come on the way. We got Blackjacks and another Cleric. Thinking about diving in, but that presence of that Lake is going to deny any further move-in. Shambler needs to think about maybe a way to move out from this position. Couple Cyclops explosions, notwithstanding. Now, I do like this position from Hamster. He goes ahead and burrows. He's going to get that cliff advantage. Could have been a little bit more graceful there, but he's even going to be able to pick one of the Blackjacks. Really, the big thing that does is it makes it feel less safe for Shambler to dive in. And now you can see these 3, Lake is going to go ahead and burrow right in his face. Remember, there's plenty of detection. That's not the concern. The concern is, can you burst down through all of the Antseal shields to actually get in and do some damage here? And you know what? With 3 Lake is firing, it feels like the answer to that question is going to be yes. You can see Hamster trying to just dive bomb with the Cyclops so that the friendly fire continues to reduce the Antseal shielding and continues to tax that healing as well. Antseal's maybe out of position here. A lot of Lake is spines go live, and that is going to go ahead and impale a few Blackjacks. Remember that Hamster's Zeth units are very cheap. Vorv's not really the same thing. Vorvs are pretty expensive on minerals, but Hamster's still banking a decent amount right now. Definitely needs to be thinking about using his various resources here. Maybe dropping another hatch, indeed. A macro hatch in the base. Good call. And now he wants to see if he can finally evict the Terran, see if he can hold with the Lake. Is one of them very low. Indeed, the one on the north gets immediately clapped, but this looks like a much better engagement for Hamster. He is going to go ahead and eat through those Antseals that are a growing threat as time goes on. Even cleaning up the Shamans, that's really important, because without the healing, it does all fall apart once the Antseal splash is taken out of the picture, once their shieldings are out. Now, a ministry was made in the meanwhile. It will go ahead and land. Hamster will soon have some vision of antics over there. And yeah, I mean, this is definitely an awkward position with the Antseals. They're going to fall away. One of the clerics will be claimed. Very, very low DPS in this army for Shambler. But the Antseals are still growing, and they haven't been managed. We're up to 6 Antseals, a Shaman on the way. There is an additional room for more Antseals in the build if Shambler wants it, but he's starting to bank his Vespine. Adding a Palladium, clearly he feels like he needs something else from this position. Remember, this whole time, Hamster can leverage Gorgor-cores or Nathracores if he wants to a little bit of an air switch, but his gas is being banked up in such a way, I'm thinking he's thinking about that tier 2. Feels like he's repulsed the hold. The Zeth does look like it was cleared at some point, so this ministry will indeed be aware. In fact, do we have like a kill somewhere? Yeah, we have 1 kill on this Blackjack, so yeah, the Zeth was cleared. Maybe it ran inside trying to get a scout or something. I don't see the corpse anywhere. Hamster is going to go ahead and hemorrhage a few of his very expendable chaff. Although not so. I mean, I think those are 2 Vorvs, so you just lost like 125 minerals there. Maybe more. Thinking about diving in, not really going to work out. That did allow for a little bit of a wraparound. Hamster could have just used this cliff advantage with the lake is. If he was a bit more decisive, that might have helped him out there. Remember, you do get cliff advantage, +2 weapon range shooting down a cliff. So these units would have been very, very much victimized by the extended lake's spines. Oh, single Zorius is on the way. Actually, it's going to be a Madrigal for the Shambler. He's going to go for that Palladium, second Palladium unit, the Phalanx, after it. Yeah, okay, interesting. I mean, right now, still pretty tight margins, right? Hamster behind in workers. Second base landing does give Mr. Shambler quite a bit of money. He's going to go ahead and drop that second Palladium as well and start to really use that throughput afforded by that second base mining. So he still is possible to... It's still quite, maybe even probable that Shambler clears this army from Hamster. It's pretty light on the sustained damage. He's got to just burst through all the ant seals. It's going to need to be a very particular fight. In fact, if this army gets cleared, there is nothing in production right now that's going to stall what Shambler has. He needs to think about burrowing those Lakes or otherwise just kind of falling away, hoping to cover his retreat. Now, Lakes do spend a lot of their lifetime burrowed, and when they burrow, they do have extra regeneration. Any burrowed unit regenerates faster for the Zerg. And look at that. We just saw it, tier 2, going down in the natural. So in that situation, we are talking about Hamster really playing the long game here, going for that tier 2. We talked about that even in the hype video, mentioning that Hamster does like to drag games on to the end times. And that's not a diss. That's talking about the end game tech. See if he can maybe leverage some of that tier 2. Maybe even we could see a longer game. But I won't get my hopes up just yet for something like that. 14 pairs of Zethra cores are on the way. We are going to see a lot more chaff that Shambler will have to grind through, currently without any splash damage. He's setting up back at home with a lot of Phalanx. I feel like maybe he's a little bit paranoid about drops or something. Hamster not leveraging that just yet. We did see all those defensive mines in the corner on Genesis Y after the 6-pool hold, which was very, very expensive for the Shambler. Ended up giving Hamster the advantage. And now we see Shambler setting up a lot of defensive units over here just in case for a run-in. Now there is tier 2. Iral Iris is available. It's going to instantaneously be a Mutat Spire also being made in the natural. Neblime turning in his grave right now. I say grave because he's not on right now, not because he's dead. But just because he's like, I can't believe you would build stuff that important in your natural instead of your main. At least it's not in his third base, Neblime. Jockeying for position here, trying to use that cliff advantage, not really going to help too much. You can see as soon as the Lakes get aggressed on, this is going to be the go signal for Hamster. He feels like he might have a nice little opportunity to burrow in and get those spines out there, and that is going to immediately eviscerate what Shambler has. He's going to have to fall away with those Anseal stacks because they were not in the right position to shield from all those Lakes, and indeed, even following that, the Lakes are not going to be dissuaded. There was even all of this little group of military, the melee little chaff army there, that was thinking about maybe moving out. Because the Phalanxes weren't with that army, there was no hope for dealing with all of the splash. I mean, just overwhelmed by the chaff on the front line. Now, I do like this Ministry and Stockade wall. This is going to make it a lot harder for Hamster to bust on through. But that being said, he is going to go ahead and take the 3 o'clock position for his third base, and he is making a pair of mutas. A gaggle of mutas. A flock of mutas. The Atlas is on the way. About a quarter of the way complete right now. I'm not really liking Hamster's ability to try to break down this wall, but I do kind of like the idea of him going into the... Uh-oh, he's got to watch out there. Remember that Ant Seals can reveal, and that is within Phalanx range. He's trying to see if he can hemorrhage the stockade, but I don't know. Not so sure if that's going to be a legit thing. You can see the splash damage from the melee units is starting to break down that wall. But it's also reducing the chaff that Hamster has to his disposal there, to his name. A couple Zets. All right, flock of mutas, 12 of them. A dozen. A baker's dozen. A muta's dozen. Yeah, I guess a baker's dozen is 13. A muta's dozen is 11. You know? Shout out Muta's dozen, wherever you are. He played a little bit of Cosmo way back in the day. Atlas now completing does mean Shambler can get into the next phase of his plan. There's a period of time here where the Mutas might be able to find some power. Remember, there's only the one Madrigal. Everything else is not Splash. All the Cyclops are dead. No Cyprians. Captaincy coming down. Mutas just flocking around looking for something. There are a couple of Watchdogs here, but those can be burst down by the Mutas before the Ant Seals can really do anything. Right now, Hamster is busy capping his gas in the natural and in the main, taking a fourth base that has no geyser, just ridges, and of course capping the gas in his third as well. The Mutas swipe in. They're going to go ahead and clear out the first Watchdog. The response time of the Ant Seals is a little bit low here for Shambler. Got to watch out as more Mutas flocking around. There comes the Madrigal. Okay, there's a couple more that did end up coming in. You got to watch out for that because the splash damage will deal some good damage there to those mutas. But he picks one Phalanx and does grievously damage another. It's worth pointing out, no reinvestment into healing. Now we're seeing some clerics. I guess they're all kind of bunched up on the rally point there. A couple of units getting hemorrhaged off to the side. Looks like one of these Anseals might... Oh, the bounce damage actually clearing quite a bit there. Not just another Phalanx, but indeed one of the Anseals goes down. Some nice hemorrhaging courtesy of the bounces. Starting to look like early game TVZ in StarCraft 1 right now with the mutas bouncing off of stockades, off of barracks, right, to hit stuff. This is starting to add up. Shambler considering his options. First stockade is going to be brought down. Lots of mutas still. Oh, you saw Hamster thinking about it. Maybe he can dive in and try to clear out those madrigals, but there's a lot of them now. Still, clearing out this stuff in the front line here on the extremities. This could be a nice little pounce move if he wanted it. Looks like now that they're unsieged, the damage is not going to be nearly as powerful there, but he will clear 2 Phalanxes despite that. Uh-oh, going after another one. Remember, splash damage is absolutely out of this world for the Madrigal, so he ends up losing quite a few mutas in a way that he didn't necessarily have to. Still, a lot of artillery hemorrhaged now. Shambler contained to 2 bases, got his ministry in the middle of nowhere at top right. Not actually noticed by Hamster, who's pounding out Protathalors, Zethrakors, Vorvikors, a little bit of Zorius as well. He's got his 3rd base operational. He's got his 4th base starting to come online. Now, Shambler does have the Apostles coming. So despite the fact that he's definitely not in a favorable spot right now, he is going to go ahead and start to add in those Apostles. He still has plenty of Anseals. Now, the mutas are indeed going to get heckled a little bit. They could probably just clear that Watchdog and save themselves a little bit of trouble. Go after a single Scrapyard. Probably not the end of the world there. And they do force the Madrigals to circle on back. Now, if we could get a drop now at this point and get some ground units to fight those Madrigals, man, that would be a very different story. Gosvelat's moving to the top right. We're starting to see the Zerg use these extra geysers. Could we see Hamster rush up to tier 3, do some of their gas-intensive strategy? I'm not sure Shambler will give him the opportunity, per se. Switching off plenty of Gosvies to gather from these gas nodes in the neutral grounds. I love to see that. We never see that. All right, stockades are off, floating into the ether. And just as the army leaves the base, the mutas dive in for a little bit more aggro. Picking off the Palladium is not a bad shout here. Remember, it does have pretty good armor. And the mutas just kind of distracting, forcing the Madrigals to pull away from the rest of the army. Not that they might be all that significant coming in here. Okay, we are going to see the attack from Hamster. He's set up for a little bit of success here as he tries to burrow those Lakes in a nice arc. The Anseal's immediately moving to cover, but look at this extra push from the left-hand side. Hamster definitely having plenty of value to that. Muta's not actually involved. They're attacking the top right base. I think the Apostles will still be able to hold. The Anseal's not in a good position for Shambler. Protathalors are just cracking shot after shot. And it looks like for now, the hold is good for the Shambler. He's pushing out with the Anseals. He's got a lot of battle workers mixed in with this force. I don't know if that was a transfer to the top right or what. That will indeed be taken care of. Now, Hamster coming back with a lot of Zorius. One of them battle workers getting taken care of. Oh, that Anseal could have just been brought down. Yeah, a turnaround here for Hamster. He could just pick the Apostle. That would be pretty big deal. Is there an... Yeah, there it goes. There is one Apostle still left in this ball. Looks like it's being... it's off to the left. That would have been another good snipe there if Hamster could have managed it. You can see him just doing his best to see what he can do. I love the one reclaimed lake is as well. Another little round, finding yet another base. Shambler trying to move forward with his death ball. He does have plenty of phalanxes he can try to use here. He is pushing Hamster back. Sikralisks are coming. Oh, look, the Apostle! The Apostle just went down! There's still a couple more that have filtered on in, including one that ends up reclaiming the Fallen. There is that at least. Here come the Zorius. Masons on the front line continuing to do what they can. Not really able to overwhelm the Anseals. Will Hamster end up falling prey to the same sort of strategy here? Remember, the Sikralisks do splash damage. Those Anseals could end up being depleted. Indeed, they have no more energy, and there goes the focus fire onto those Protathalors. Oh my god, the Anseals have evaporated! The Sikralisks overwhelming with their splash! And I think with the Zorius, and of course the Protathalors, GG has to be called. Exodia never stood a chance. Hamster up 2-0. He might just 3-0 our opponent. Oh man, Shambler's gonna have to hope that he found something on Muspelheim to make this work, because Hamster, he just did it. All right. I cannot wait to see what we got cooking. Hamster, thinking about it. He's thinking about moving up to the semifinals to face the winner of AUD 64 and Kenoli, happening a little bit later today. And Shambler, he's getting himself hyped up. He's listening to his metal music, his ethnic music, whatever he's got. He's got like all these playlists of like, I think one of them was like, might have been like Irish or something. I can't remember. I see your hot takes in the chat. Ooh, I see somebody's more than his hot take. I see a nice, refreshing citrus. Neblime, how the hell are you?
I am great. I just saw the end of that game, but that's all I've watched so far.
Oh, of course you're great. You just watched Shambler take an L.
Yeah, I did.
Can you believe this guy?
Just in time.
Yeah, just in time. Shambler going to have to rethink that one. Took a long time to get back into things and back into the lobby. Speaking of, I think I'm going to stream this to you because we already have a pretty laggy connection. That's all right.
Fine. Suits me. I'll be watching the live stream as well, so I'll see everything.
Oh, I see. There it is. Well, we are about to get into Muspelheim. We have just initiated what could be our final countdown here. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Hamster, who is our Russian green Zerg in the bottom left, versus the Shambler, red Terran in the top right. It's Muspelheim, a map that I would think is kind of Zerg favored. The typing has begun, sir. The typing has begun. Have you been practicing in an ass somewhere?
I have not played any games with Hamster preparing for this, so I think he's just winging it.
Yes, he is. Well, I will say to you, since you missed the first game, a 6-pool from Hamster. Shambler makes two key mechanical mistakes that otherwise I feel like without those he probably holds it. And he gets behind. The game goes on for a few more minutes, but then Hamster finishes the job quite, gives him the coup de grace. You know, he kind of knew at that point. And look at this. We're going to go for that pool into Larvosk yet again. This is the opener he did on Near Impact. Shambler did go for a Stockade open on Near Impact. I don't know if that was a direct reaction to being 6-pooled on Genesis Y, or if it was just like, I want to try this bio opener. It does give him his Vestry sooner so he can get his healing up, but I think it might have slowed his Fulcrum push a little bit more, so he goes back to Fulcrum opening, which is what he did on Gen Y. Scout from both players as well, so pretty basic.
I imagine against 6-pool, if you get a single Vulture out, you are fine. So I don't think you need to go Stockade. What map was the 6-pool on before?
Genesis Y was their starter.
Okay, this is a good pick, I suppose. Man, we've seen some cheeses on that map so far, haven't we?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because he did get a Vulture out, and he laid a mine, and then he tried to go further out, and then he sees the Zets. He goes back to the mine. Mine stuns his Vulture. More Zets come in and kill the Vulture. You know how it goes. But then he still would have been fine because he made an anchor in his mineral line. But in a panic, he put 4 Masons in, so his Vulture couldn't get in. So.
I see.
It was from bad to worse.
Unawares.
Yeah, from bad to worse. So anybody who watched through the entire way, you just got that 5-second recap. As indeed, Hamster kind of moving around. He's still got his worker out in the bottom. He tried this with his Zeth earlier, just kind of burrowed it in the corner, and he's gonna most likely unburrow and see what's up. Second Fulcrum nearly complete here, or halfway complete for the Shambler. Meanwhile, I was just commenting on this earlier, Neblime. What do you think of Zergs spreading their Kagra towards the ramp with their Larvosk? It makes them a little bit more vulnerable, I think, but at the same time, I don't think it's terrible. I mean, it does give you that potential hold for anti-ground, right?
I think it is important, but it's hard to imagine the exact situation where you're just holding your main ramp because most of those situations happen earlier than you would be ready here.
Right.
But I think you might as well do it. And unlike against Protoss, I don't think you're worrying about like sort of run by like melee units and stuff. So having a sort of clustered main base is not as important. Obviously, you know, Terran can't 6-pool you either. That would be a good reason to sort of put your K-Grid right in your base. But against Terran, like, what are they going to do early? They're going to run in like Mavericks or maybe Vultures or something, or an Anchor, say. Like, and none of those things are helped by clustering your buildings. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
Does indeed. Mine layout here for the Shambler looking sharp. Gonna accept plenty of action from the Zets if they come in.
With this double Fulcrum, of course, he has to go for this Cyclops-centric composition. I mean, I guess he could have added scrapyards, but generally, what else are you going to be making off 2 immediate Fulcrums, right? You're going to have to make the Cyclops, I feel like, too. carry on here. Now, we don't see any Hydra from Hamster yet, which has been popular recently. We saw AOT definitely trying to use the Hydra a bit more against Terran, but I think against Quaz, Cyclops are perfect. Now, of course, the Vorvs being morphed definitely going to make a big difference. If you can get on top of the Cyclops, they will blow themselves up with a rapid speed. But if you hit that critical mass, you can keep the Zerg off you, especially if you keep kiting. I think this can be very devastating against pool units.
Yes, I mean, those early mines as well, they are going to shut down any aggression. The question is whether Hamster will respect their possibility. If he clears them with these workers, I mean, you know this better than anyone, Neblime. What is the value of a single worker, you know?
It's so low, man, so low. Especially if you're Zerg, you can make another one. But he's going to come in here. It'd be a big mistake if Hamster trying to attack the ramp. I hope he just pokes with one Zeph is what he wants to do here, because he can see there's no expansion. Okay, he's thinking about it.
He does clear the one mine. Yeah, that's not terrible.
Is he going to do it again? Oh, he's going for it. He's going for it. Okay,
he is, but he's lost most of his Vorvs already, it feels like. Nice focus fire from Shambler to clear that last one.
Yeah, very nice. Oh, great move. He does that top one as well. That might have just been a random hit. And yeah, it looks like Shambler has enough as long as he keeps kiting. Not the best micro so far for him, but there you go. He's starting to get it going. You can see the Vorvs are highly effective here, but I think Shambler just seems to have enough. Should be a bit careful about blowing himself up. Yeah, here we go. And the Vulture never even stopped shooting the Iron Foundry. Oh, now it did.
Now it did.
He's like, all right, now it's my turn.
Well, here we go. I mean, there's plenty of Zets going to be coming out as a response to that, but Hamster is going to stay at home. The Zorkish Shroud on the way for him. Cyclops drop incoming for his main base. I think Shambler correctly realizing there's almost no way that you have a natural. If you do, then I'm going to see if it's the back base, and if you don't, then no problems there. Still has some Cyclops back here, but yeah, Nats are going to be a tough cookie to try to solve with this, right? You have to pull the Masons as that happens.
No, the Masons. Okay, so far so good, but he needs to be so careful here. Do you attack his own starport there, I think? Okay, he can probably bully these way now. He really needs a watchdog. Look, I love that Shambler got an anchor here, realizing he's sending like most of his army in the Trojan. I think that was a good move. But yeah, Cyclops alone cannot really solve this. He's making Goliaths now, and that'll be fine. And a single watchdog will solve that as well. Luckily, he didn't lose too many workers. I've got to say, I think it was a huge mistake of Hamster to attack up there. I'm surprised he tried it. And now he's on the back foot. He's got those Orkies coming, which will be quite good against these Cyclops. But in the meantime, any worker kill's going to go down? Well, so far so good for Hamster. Very fast reaction there, but a lot of mining time.
Indeed. I mean, it's pretty much even on the mining time situation compared to the two players, right? Now the Cyclops actually unloading so that they can do a little bit of damage to those Nather cores. Doesn't look like they're going to splash too many of them. Well, maybe I say that. Hamster might have a little bit of a control flub here. Okay, he manages to get out without too many losses there. That was looking a bit worrisome.
Didn't seem like he lost any workers at all there, but he did reveal he made a whole bunch of navs. I would like to see another watchdog or a couple of Shambler here. But look, the thing is, the navs I feel like do not have the long-term staying power that we've seen in the other matchups recently. As long as Terran has the anti-air units they need, they can kind of easily deal with this, especially if Magical comes out, although I don't see the Palladium on the way yet. But Goliaths are sort of tanky enough. I think with the Cyclops support, they can handle this. Although, again, there's no Watchdog down there. Oh, he floated that down. He didn't even destroy the Iron Foundry. Big mistake here from Shambler. Honestly, I feel like he absolutely could have destroyed that Foundry if his units were just tasked on that.
Yeah, by now they definitely would have. Yeah, so the Goliaths are going to come in. They will destroy the Vorvs if, or the Nats if allowed to fight. But it does shut down the potential mining at that base. And he was even starting to make a late Watchdog.
Well, Shambler's still sitting pretty on his one base here, but Hamster is not wasting any time. Already throwing down the third. I think he realized after he killed that drop, especially going Zorkus here, he's sort of set up to defend himself pretty easily, and I think he's right. I'd be surprised if Shambler can come out and bust through here. Like, what's he going to attack with? A bunch of Blackjacks and Anseals? I don't think that's going to get through the Lakirs very easily. Here come the Nafs. Oh.
Now they do. I think you're going to clear a single Volt, but actually somehow those lobotomy mines dodged all the Cyclops shells.
Ow.
So impressive stuff.
He's going to make his way down there. Yeah, so Shambler does have sort of the free second base. Well, this is not a good move from Hamster. There's no way you're getting through there.
Yeah, 4 Watchdogs, plenty enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Say he committed, right? He can get that outer one, but any others than that will just get repaired and you will just lose everything. But he's getting good info and keeping Shambler on the back foot with these. I think these Navs have been reasonably efficient. Like I said, behind this, Hamster got the third right away, and he's just getting the... He's not going for a tier 2 here. At least not for now. He really is just setting up his defense, probably anticipating a big push.
Oh, no.
This is not a big push.
That seems like a puzzling move. Hey, by the way, I have a shroud. There's some info for you.
Yeah, right? He's just sending it over there. There's no healing with this, which is a big issue with the Cyclops. If you get a few Shamans here, be a different matter. But I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, like, no, Shambler cannot attack with this. He will just get devastated. A couple of Masons might fall, but honestly, I think this is fine for Hamster, for Shambler, rather.
Yep. Yeah, he does pull his army back, and I don't know what Hamster is doing with these Lakers. That's the second one. All right, he pulls the
Yeah.
rest of them back at least.
Yeah,
little bit
he needs to go
discombobulated.
for more of a defensive posture here, because I think Hamster's put himself in a situation where he doesn't want to be attacking. But he seems a bit antsy. He seems like he wants that 3-0, man.
know,
He's
yeah.
keen for it now.
Yeah, he doesn't really want to wait, right? It is a bit odd, a bit interesting. So Shambler's abandoning the prospects of moving to the back base. He did get the Iron Foundry within burning radius, so it isn't going to stay alive for very long. That being said, the Ministry is now operational in the bottom. Worker count definitely favoring the Zerg player right now. But you got to respect the Anseal Ball. Like we were talking about this in the first game as well, or the second game rather, is that even though the ground army was getting reset a lot by the Shambler, Hamster wasn't doing any management on the Anseals. It was only until he hit tier 2, grabbed the Sicrilisks, that he was able to actually break that, like you saw in the end of that game. Now, this time there's no tier 2 on the way yet for Hamster. And you know what? Shambler's actually picking the engagement, but the Lakias are a huge threat here, and the Anseals are not even standing on location. Finally, they burrow, and that is going to clean house for a lot of what Shambler's military had. He deploys the Shaman, but it's much too late. Having only a few units left, this could be the killing blow.
Yeah, it looks like he might get into all that mine. Absolutely clutch, though. Or it's going to be a very close hold if he can hold those. Anseal's doing overtime, but they are going to get blown up by their Encyclops soon.
Yeah, that's right.
Encyclops left.
Not really much left for him. Now he's losing everything in the natural. He's taking his hands off the keyboard. Well, no, that's not true. He's typing on the keyboard.
There you go.
Well, you know what? Good words for Shambler. Still in a victorious mood. GG called. And you know what? Hamster, a little bit of prep goes a long way. 3-0 over Shambler.
Very nice.
I am surprised that it went that way. I was really considering Hamster as a bit of an underdog here, but we actually have had all 3 zeros so far. Those were all matches that I predicted at least one match going the other guy's way, you know? So now that I was sitting here talking about how Aoud versus Kenoli, that should be the easiest, null and void one. That one will be 3-2 or something silly, just to add a little bit of spice.
Reverse sweep from one player to another. Look, you can't write Hamster off easily. You got to remember, this is the guy who was in Acropolis finals, right? Ascension finals.
Yeah, Ascension 6 and 7 back to back.
Yeah. So he's definitely always been a top player and always come up with things people have never seen before, right? And Zerg, I feel like, is his best race now that he's back to it. And this shows that strength here, right? When some people are complaining that Terran's OP or something, he's showing us, no, we have ways.
I wonder who those some people might be. Yeah. Well, it is interesting to me that this is the way that the cookie crumbled. I am very surprised that it went that way. The 6-pool match from Hamster, that was beautiful. I mean, again, on some level, you do wish he had maybe been made to earn it a bit more because there were some mistakes from Shambler, but you can shake those off and go into the next game. And Shambler did have a very formidable army at various stages of near impact. He just wasn't really able to get it over the line from what Hamster was doing. And I'm not sure how much of that was the contain onto base versus the muta switch that came in from Hamster. There's probably a lot of things he could have done when he was allowed to take his 3rd and 4th relatively without incident, shall we say. But on Muspelheim, the shenanigans, the jockeying over the back base definitely hurt Shambler. Wasn't maybe expecting the Nathacores to come on in. And it was really a nice spread of strategy from Hamster between the very all-out early aggression on Genesis Y, the nice little mixed base stuff that you go into tier 2 and start really having a lot of tech and trying to jockey with Lakias and whatnot. It's something that I think is, Lakias was the iconic Krankendow unit, and Hamster has started to use that really, really well to great effect lately. All of his highlight clips and it pretty much featured that unit. So, no surprise he adds to his tally here with the surrounds and such. Coming into Muspelheim, obviously that was the deciding factor as well towards the end, but I do think that it was nice to see him also use the Naths because he hadn't really used them at all in the lead up to throughout this series up until that final game. So, congratulations to him. He moves on in the upper bracket. He'll face the winner of our next series, Aoud 64 versus Kenoli. Shambler is not out yet. He will face the loser of that aforementioned series. And, by all accounts, should have a good shot of moving deeper into the tournament. That being said, I know you're going to be going up against HitEmUp in the upper semifinal there, Neblime. Whoever...
Yeah, I'll send him down for Shambler to fight in the lower final, no problem.
I was going to say, whoever loses the match that you have next week will face the winner of the Shambler's lower bracket match. If you're following here. So if Shambler beats...
Yeah, so I'll send HitEmUp his way. That'll have fun.
Yeah. So that he did say he's going to fuck him up. So I'm just saying, hit him up, fuck him up. There's probably a nice little type him up there, keyboard. But that's it, man.
Chat him up. Chat him up is what you'd say.
There you go. All right. Well, Shambler is awaiting his exit interview, so I figure we can, his post-match interview, we can bring him in here and pick his brains a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
If Discord will work. There it is. Shambler, welcome. You have been felled by Hamster, the 6 pool, quite strong opening. Obviously, I'm sure you have some choice words about that because there were some key things that occurred there to fuel that. But before I even get your opinion on individual matches, you still feeling like this is still your tournament despite this showing?
Yeah. That was the one match that I felt like just was outright stupid that I lost was the 6 pool one.
Mm-hmm.
Really, that was a gift for me that I dropped. I guess that's why it's cheese. I just literally needed to not get my vulture stuck in the. First of all, not get my first vulture stunned, and then even then, after it's stunned and it dies, there's still like plenty of time for the next vulture to get in the bunker. But I put 4 SCVs in there, so
right.
That just sort of sealed the deal, and I was like, oh, that was fucking retarded. But otherwise, the other matches, it's like he grinded some things out. I think I know what to do going forward if the other Zergs try to mimic. And it looks like I bet I'm probably going to be facing Kenoli or Art of Turtle down there. And so I expect they're going to be taking notes and trying this out. But yeah, I know what to do against the Lake Hiz in the future.
Gotcha.
Just in the moment, it's pretty frazzling. Basically just need earlier tanks, but yeah, is my thought at least.
Okay, so there's still some adaptations that can be made. I don't want to be too down on you because I also feel like, one of the things that has been a staple of watching players throughout this tournament, be it in the gauntlet stage, and then also from the battlements to this opening round with Throneroom. I mean, Neblime had a similar experience where, he did win one match versus Aud, but otherwise was on the receiving end of the 2 Falk, like more one-base style for longer periods of time, the more aggressive style. Then he does his homework, comes back to play against TopRamen and, sweeps them. So there's an element of that mid-tournament adaptation that seems to be happening. I think you could say the same about why Kenoli got as far as he did. A lot of grinding, a lot of practicing, a lot of thought, and a lot of theory. And so I feel like there's plenty of room for those adaptations to make it out. Difficult to reserve judgment when you're just a spectator at home thinking, oh, wow, that was a 3-0. That must have been a dumpster or something. But no, it really can be, the thing that kicks you into gear for the development of your strategy going forward. So I would say, you are going to be facing against playing against the loser of AUD 64 versus Kenoli, which pretty much, if you had to ask bookies odds, it would be insane, like 10-1 odds for Kenoli to make it past AUD there. So most likely you'll be doing a matchup rematch in that you'll be facing against Zerg again. So in that situation, maybe this is a nice little practice and prep for that. What did you think about the game on Near Impact? Because, he goes for the mutas on the tier 2 when he was able to get up to his bases. Did you think that actually was disruptive, or was it more like, oh, the issue is that he was at tier 2 already or something?
Well, I shouldn't have been in that situation to begin with. I really dropped the ball in the fights with the Lake Hiz. I've faced that before, the Lake Hiz opener in our practice. I submitted those replays actually, and I didn't have, like, it was on a more defensive map than Near Impact, with the high ground lip on what's it called, Rage Slave.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't have a problem with it. I just sniped down the Lake Hiz and dealt with it. I didn't micro my. I should have been peeling my forces back in stages. I got into the bad habit of just moving everything at once, and part of it's ensnared and all this other stuff, which just leaves your DPS in shambles. Yeah, it was I took some bad fights, and there's definitely room for improvement, but I know what to do. So it's just a matter of grinding, I think.
I gotcha. Neblime, any thoughts or musings or questions for Mr. Shamble here?
Yeah, so I only saw like a little less than half of the set since I just arrived, but something I thought was interesting is Hamster seemed to be investing more in sort of like the sort of APM-based plays, where, like you said, you sort of knew what to do, especially against six ball as well. I mean, I agree by the sounds of it, like you had the response, but just weren't able to execute. But it seems to be that Hamster was focusing on that kind of execution thing, like with the naps in that last game. Like on paper, they didn't really earn their keep, like the amount it cost him, but they were a constant like APM distraction and they caused like disruption. And with the mutas in the previous game as well, it didn't really look like they were doing that much damage. But again, they were constantly there niggling away. So I don't know. What do you think? Is that maybe something that you need to improve on, or a strength of Hamsters in particular?
I've always been weak versus drop styles, which is why I found a lot of value in Hamster's Zerg practice. He would do drop styles on me. I've always struggled with them, so air is just one step away from drop, and I've always just dealt with that by hurting up because Lamau, I'm facing a race that can make 100 mutas at once. So the response was poor. There's times when like I was just trying to wrangle my units that were spinning around. I've never really liked madrigals. I don't like flinging units in general. Vultures, madrigals, they always give me tism. When
nerf the madrigal move speed would actually be a buff, honestly.
So
I don't only go that far, but like it's just how fragile they are and how they move, and the fact that they're flinging. It's like, oh, I'm gonna throw 3 madrigals into the jaws of death, even though I ordered them over here and not over there. And it's like, ugh.
I did think on the near impact match, once you got your tier 2 comp, it looked like it was very difficult for you to move forward because you had like the shamans and the magicals you had to set up and down, and the ant seals you have to micro back and forth as well, while like sort of microing and moving your stuff back and forth. And Hamster quite well like microed his travelers back and kited and all that stuff and picked it apart over time. So I think part of the difficulty here is you set yourself up in a situation where you have like really high mechanical demand, and Hamster is doing his best to sort of complicate that as well. Like I said, with sort of just sharking into mutas and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think that's just his strength as a player, I guess. Hamster is very innovative, both in the like theory of the game and also in the sort of way he controls the flow of the game. So definitely a formidable opponent.
Yeah, we're very similar in that regard. Is that we're very much around the we both try to exploit the info more so than the mechanics. Like how we're more like unit interactions than actual on the ground micro, which is a weakness in both our cases, but it's slightly expressed differently because I have the feeling that if you were to record me and Hamster's POVs, that I look at my army more, and so I'm fiddling with it constantly, and I have the feeling that he looks at his base more, and that results in ism. But in this case, it won out because I was fucking up. So,
fair enough.
I do think that I will hope to see you two meet again at some point in that like lower bracket or whatever, because we're getting to that point, and I think this is true in general. It's probably been true for a little bit, but it keeps happening, where it feels like we're getting to that point where we have so many players that play pretty well, that are doing pretty good, that I love to see them face off against each other. Like some of them aren't even in this tournament. Arbuz, Hapsea, Mystery Meat, right? These are like key names that feel like they're absent right now. And then there's the players that were sent home that I think also could have maybe done some damage if directly seeded into this kind of stage, which would be like, I think the Night Fox has a pretty good macro routine. I think Jarl Storm seems like a pretty solid player as well. And then you think about players like obviously Jack Yelansky, who's a pretty solid guy onto his own if he can get past the early game. He was maybe tunneling a bit. But despite all of those things, I just feel like there's so many cool matchups that we can have in the top level now that I do almost wish we were able to run these tournaments like once a month or something at maybe an accelerated rate or whatever. Maybe once every 2 months for the sanctity of my sanity and scheduling. But either way, it's just I hope to see you guys rematch at some point is really what I'm trying to say, because I think there's definitely going to be like a banger 3-2 series at some point in your guys' future. This is my prediction. I don't know if it'll be in this tournament because it's a tough bracket to make it out from there, but maybe it's possible.
No, we'll see each other again, assuming he doesn't die. I'm in the trenches now. I'm gonna clean up the folks below, get rid of these last few Zergs, but we'll deal with it. I'll see him. I'll see Neblime or HitEmUp in the grand finals.
Ah, there we go.
First
rematch. Let's go.
The back-to-back grand final appearance could happen for you, Shambler. We'll see. That would be a pretty big statement considering the change in players. Like back in Acropolis 1, right? We had Hapsea, who didn't make it this far this time around. We had Art Turtle, obviously, is still in the running, technically. We obviously still had Newt. Shout out Newt that one time. And then I'm trying to think of other players that aren't already
Ramen.
repeats. But
no,
yeah, that's right.
Bruce,
Technically,
didn't
TopRamen didn't make it, but he was also around. And also, like, we didn't have HitEmUp. We didn't have Aoud. You know, it's worth throwing them out there as, like, these guys could actually genuinely be tournament contenders. And then also, the Magic could strike again. I just have to say it for the posterity's sake in case Kenoli sweeps him or something. But it could have. It is possible. But I don't know. I'm not sure that I would bet that. However, all that being said, Shambler, I will definitely look forward to your next match. We will have a week off, like a week in between these matches. So next weekend, a week from today, most likely, is when you'll be playing against the loser of Aoud 64 versus Kenoli. So you stick around and figure out which one of them you're got to prep for. But I'm very interested in seeing how you proceed and what the adaptations are going to be in this matchup going forward. Because there's definitely more to Exodia than what we saw here. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing Kenoli. I was hoping to get some TVT in, but I'll become the ZVT specialist if I have to.
Gotcha. Well, in that situation, I wish you luck. Shambler, thank you for joining us for the interview and for the games. Good luck in your next match, and we will see you, I guess a little bit sooner. I'll see you a little bit sooner than that for D&D, most likely. So GG's, dude.
GG's.
All right, Neblime, we know what's up in this upper bracket. We can see it on our screens. It's going to be Hamster moving on to semifinal number 2. He will face the winner of Aoud versus Kenoli. Any predictions or thoughts for that matchup, Aoud versus Kenoli?
Look, man, you said it. He has a hill to climb. Kenoli has his work cut out for him.
Yes.
Yeah. I know what Aoud might be cooking up that's different from what we've seen before, but I'm sure he's got something, man. Kenoli has to be a master chef to be serving the meals that'll take out ED. I don't see how he can pull it off. So I'd be happy to be surprised. It's always hype to see an underdog come through. But oh man, Aoud is another sort of contender like you're talking about for the whole thing. So it's worrying.
Indeed. In that situation, all I can say, all I can imagine, all I can think of is that the matchup is going to have some very cool attempts, and it'll really depend on that execution. That's what I want to know, because we'll break it down a little bit more when that match is getting ready to go, which will be pretty soon, actually, guys. The match start time is technically about now. We'll see if our homies are actually here. But we'll take like a 10-minute break anyway, a 5-10-minute break, just so I can go downstairs and all that. But I will say though about this match, I'm predicting that Aoud is going to be able to make it out. That being said, it is going to kind of matter the complexion of the games. Is he going to be pushed? Is he going to be tested? And what can we see of Kenoli? Because this might be his hardest matchup in the game, ZVT. It's also definitely the one that I haven't seen him actually play in officials. So I've seen him play plenty of ZVP, plenty of Z-Mirror. His versus Terran is kind of unknown to me. So very interested in seeing what he can make happen. With that said, any closing thoughts before we go to break?
I could finally go watch those hype player intros I haven't even seen yet. That's
Hell
what I'm waiting
yeah.
to do.
Hell yeah. Check it out in the break. All right, guys, we'll be back in about 10 minutes. See you then. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is bloop time, and by bloop, I of course mean AUD64 versus Kenoli. We've got a nice little veto already picked out, and we are about to get into our final quarterfinal. Hamster already taken care of business in the previous one. Neblime, we talked a little bit about AUD versus Kenoli. We're both pretty sure that Kenoli has his work cut out for him, to put it very mildly. What do you make after the veto? Because we are going to see Genesis Y as the starter. And
man.
I don't know how Zerg is going to handle that.
This is a veto. Look, maybe I play Zerg in a certain way, but I would think you want to be as far away from Terran as possible. You want all this space to expand, get all your bases, surround the enemy. And then Kenoli's out here, vetoes Paradise, vetoes Decapitation, which I would have thought was even better for Zerg, because you can get Lakuzilik around the place.
Yep.
Picks Near Impact and Demiloon.
Yeah.
EOD with quite conventional picks. I say Gen Y a very solid pick. Rage Slave quite good as well. Muspelheim I'm 50-50, but makes sense to ban the 4 players, especially Check Steal. I think it's very rough first ever Zerg. But Kenoli's planning something, man. Is it too transparent?
Yeah, he's looking for those scrappy early games, and it kind of does check out with my understanding of how he likes to approach the matches. If the game goes long, he doesn't really usually have the mechanics to keep up with players at the throne room stage. I would say that pretty accurately. I remember once upon a time, Neblime, I can't remember if this was on a tournament cast, or if this was like just in a random, aside we were talking. But you mentioned that, like, for example, there's players who they're different. If you had to rank them, you'd give them different stages for whatever the stat is. Like if it's macro, maybe Jack has like throne room level macro, but his micro, maybe his tactics or something like that, they might be more gauntlet stage or battle.
Let's be honest, right? He has like hotshot level micro sometimes.
Oh yeah, using the ranking system. Yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about.
We should make player profiles like that now, honestly.
Yeah, I wonder. Because like sovereign level macro sounds pretty epic, right? Like if you're sovereign level macro player, and I feel like AUD is pretty close to that for both macro and micro. Sure. Like he doesn't really have a glaring weakness in his game. He doesn't get overwhelmed when in a crisis as often as other people do. If he's down and in a deficit of some sort, it's not because he made some glaring error in the mechanical layer of the game. It's usually somebody outplaying him on a strategic level, I would say, right? That seems to be my read on him so far.
But like you say, I think his mechanics are very good, but I think he suffers from some level of inflexibility from what I've seen, and not adapting super well to the situation if it's not going how he expected. So I know he can definitely be thrown off. That said, I still don't know Kenoli that well, but I'm sad to say I do not think he has sovereign level mechanics. I'm sorry, I got to be honest. So it's going to be an uphill fight for him.
Yeah, I'm looking at the way that this has worked out. Genesis Y, that feels like it should be a super comfy pick for AUD, though Kenoli could decide to take a page at a Hamster's book.
He has to have some kind of plan, right? He didn't veto it. Yeah. Again, I would have thought Gen Y and probably Rage Slave are like the top 2 maps for Terran here. Probably followed by Demiloon, to be honest. So not vetoing any of these, and in fact picking Demiloon, he must have a plan. Kenoli must have a plan.
Well, Night Fox is in the chat. He's played with so many games against Kenoli, and in general has really studied him up and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to point out his analysis is Kenoli being a 2-base aggro player. Series should be scrappy if AUD doesn't just use his mechanical advantage to win the day. And, that AUD does like his drops. Kenoli did struggle with those the one time he played Terran that I've seen, that I can remember at least. Maybe, no, there was one match he played against Terran that I know happened, but I didn't watch, and it was against the Night Fox's Terran in the first Gauntlet stage. And that, I believe, was either 2-0 or 2-1 for Fox. I know Fox won, I just don't remember if it was a flawless victory or not. Either way, his versus Terran does seem the least practiced in terms of official matches, and in terms of, like, anecdotally, have I seen him playing against too many Terrans? I know he played some games against the Shambler to warm him up for Hamster. I also know that he played some practice matches against Shambler previously. He didn't really look too stellar versus the Terran in any of those situations. So, just looking at this, it does feel to me like it's the hardest matchup for him in terms of the race, and not really a player he can exploit on a mechanical level with the surprise moves that he does in the same way. That being said, shading in a little bit more context as we wait for Kenoli to join in the lobby, AUD is a player that has not gotten that much practice in himself. It's worth pointing that out there. So maybe if he comes in a little cold and Kenoli has a lot of prep done, that can happen. I just feel like we're not going to see the same upset on Genesis Y. I feel like that is going to be a situation where Aoud will hold better than Shambler did if it's a similar situation with the early aggro, and we're not going to see a repeat of that. But I did find it a little bit funny that our first two maps are going to be identical between the series. And Muspelheim does make an appearance, also picked by a Terran, just as their decider if we need it.
Yeah, I think it seems reasonable versus Zerg, but I'm not sure it's a straightforward affair. But yeah, I would be surprised to see a 6-pull again on Gen Y. I don't think it's like your go-to when you're facing EUD, because he's always going production on one base. He's not going to be caught doing a greedy expand or anything like that. And I think he has the mechanics and wherewithal to sort of just micro his way out of it. I guess we'll see if he goes for it, but isn't it somewhat predictable, like you say, seeing the first match go that way already?
Right, yeah. It is interesting. It is interesting. We have been given the 1 sec from, actually from both players now, but from Kenoli, so we know he's alive after his veto. And look at that, my coffee stream bot just reminded people that you can go to our coffee page and donate to us. Yes, you can. It is possible. You can donate to the map
prize
stuff.
pool confidential? Will that get people hyped to donate more?
Trying to think about where we were at after your most recent donations, because we were at something like, let me see, I had written it down somewhere. The Throneroom stage was looking like it preserved its $1,000 by itself, but I think you've bumped it over that now. I think it's closer to like 1,100, 1,150, something like that, because of your follow-up donations there. So yeah, that is a possibility.
Someone match me.
Yeah,
I don't know, get in there and pump that prize pool up so I can win it all.
That's right. Wants to do it. The big money match. I mean, I feel like you don't normally get tournaments for StarCraft 1 in general for the foreign scene that have this kind of cash flow. I know that there are some that are somewhat comparable. Like there might be like $1,000 prize pool. I know BSL has a lot as well, to be fair, but it's not like an everyday affair. So it feels like a little bit of a spectacle,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a great temptation. Just get in there and play for sure.
Absolutely.
It feels good to know, you're supporting such a cool mod. So I highly recommend the donating experience.
The donating experience, indeed. Well, with that said, it looks like we're just about ready to get started with our match. Just waiting on Kenoli's ready. And that will indeed be our final quarterfinal. The fourth one. That's what quarter means, of course. I'm looking forward to some TVZ action some more, and readies have been exchanged. So ladies and gentlemen, let us bring you yet another best of 5 here. We'll see what happens as we load in to Genesis Y. It's going to be Aoud 64, the Pumpkin Terran in the top right. And Kenoli, regrettably not Pumpkin. He is the Midnight Green Zerg in the bottom right. Now, I wanted to point this out, and I kind of wanted to fit it into the hype video, but I forgot when I was recording the commentary track. Guys, Aoud 64 and Kenoli both have a color preference for Pumpkin. So the fact that Aoud won it this time, I think it's done by essentially RNG. We'll see if Kenoli can roll the Pumpkin color. And if he can, that can be pretty cool. That can be pretty legit. I'm just saying. Maybe that's a sign
coming out here.
Yeah.
By the way,
pool. No.
I think, by the way, I'm just going to put the prediction out here. If Kenoli goes for anything like a 6-pull, I think it's going to fail and he's going to lose that map.
Okay.
So I'm glad to see him not doing it. And it looks like it's going to be a double Fulcrum coming up here, or possibly single Fulcrum with like a Cyclops or something. But I'm thinking double here, and that's what Edie does seem to like to do. He's not the kind of player to rush to expand here. Scout going to come up and see it pretty soon, though.
So one thing that I think is really cool about what Aoud's style has been hitherto, it was notably absent when it came to the Battleman stage, but in his qualifying series, he almost always leveraged none other than the Talos, actually. Fast Quarry.
Yeah.
And so
wonder why he's changed his mind.
I know, yeah. We did do an interview where he talked a little bit about that in day 2 of Battlements, and he said that he wasn't, I thought maybe there was a little bit of a mind game to it, because he said it in the pregame interview that he's like, well, I feel like it's pretty vulnerable, actually, and if I do that, I would probably end up losing, so I'm probably not going to do it. But then I think he even said something about how that might be a mind game, just like adding to it. And then, of course, Shopkeeper Dog did do the Immortal Proxy, so that would have countered it even harder, but it wasn't even happening in that situation. So, yeah, I'm not sure.
To get the W with it somehow, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely good. Well, maybe that is the point, right? You look at it on paper, you're like, oh, all these benefits I'm getting, I get some scouting, I get slightly more workers. Yeah, but then what if he just kills you?
Right.
What if he's just coming at you with units? I think he has a point there. And maybe just being more confident in general and being able to scout just for Masons on the ground like he's doing now. And, with a couple vultures, you're going to have a good degree of map control, I think, to see what's going on.
Indeed, Kenoli's scouting worker is actually going to go ahead and burrow. That will delay the vulture a little bit. The Mason's still here to maybe repair it, but instead it's going to be going back home. Zets are going to route the vulture, and Quaz just hatched. So still plenty of cash to splash here for our Zerg competitor, our upstart player. Going to go ahead and try to clear those mines. Okay, a couple of Zets are going to go down.
Those Zets,
yeah.
Or maybe not. Okay, bit of a miss micro from EUD, but there are only Zefs at the end of the day, they don't cost much. But yeah, Kenoli banking up huge amounts of gas here. What's going wrong here? Does he not have a plan for what he's going to build next? I'm just wondering what he's thinking right now. Or indeed, what he's doing.
It's going to be a couple extra Larvosks on one base. Now, I have seen tales of HitEmUp going for like 5 Larvosk on one base. Unfortunately for Aoud, he just rallied a vulture into the throng of death there.
Oh, he does not want to come down here, though.
No.
Kenoli needs to stop doing this. He's throwing away a lot of units doing this. Honestly, EUD probably could have cleaned that up if he was a bit more aggressive. I think he's sort of underestimating his vultures. Oh, but the mines keep going off.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, there's a couple extra pairs of Quaz are going to hatch. The Vornath is on the way. That Larvos never actually got started, and another vulture is going to join the fray. Not very many mines over here. Nice micro back for Aoud.
Yeah.
Okay, pieced him up here. It looks like workers are going to have to get involved. They do decollide that, but the last Quaz does go down, so free reign over the worker line right now. And that they even have to burrow to avoid the pain. We've got more Quaz finishing up. Vornath is done, but going to be a while before it can be leveraged. Remember, Kenoli has so much in the bank and still more production on the way that it's looking very dire for him, but he isn't as far behind as you might expect, considering just based on the fact that he's got so much money in the bank, he can kind of recover from whatever. That being said, Aoud's micro on point with these vultures, really making Kenoli work for it.
Yeah, this is only one base still for EUD, so if he can somehow stabilize, but actually I hope...
No, never mind. 3 more vultures just hit the deck, yeah. There's also a Cyclops drop being fermented behind this, and Kenoli is immediately going to be going down 0-1 for Aoud. The mines get dropped. They are indeed going to stun a couple of the battle workers. 2 of those Quaz getting picked apart as well. One vulture not even in the fight. Aoud not needing all of his full strength right now. And GG has to be called.
Yeah, GG.
Kenoli meant to leave the game, but he did the classic pause. Yeah. Would have been funnier if he paused and then left, so that we were still paused.
Yeah, that's the classic that you do. So everyone's like, "What's going on?"
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Well, with all that being said, we do have a 1-0 start here for our Terran, our favorite to win the series. Starting off pretty strong. Not really much to say about that. It was just, walking into the mines was the first bad choice. Second bad choice might have been floating all that money to begin with. So what is Kenoli going to be doing on his own map pick of Near Impact? We're going there. Familiar territory after our first series, TVZ. But definitely a different outcome with the Terran claiming victory there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so far I'm thinking it might be the reverse. Look, I have to say, that game does not bode well for Kenoli in this series because he didn't look particularly prepared, even to the point where it didn't really seem like he knew what he wanted to do, and he banked up this huge amount of money early, and also didn't really read the situation at all. So I don't want to be too down on Kenoli, but watching that, I'm kind of thinking like, ooh, how's he going to pull a map out here?
Yeah. No, I think it's fair to point that out, that generally speaking, we're looking at a situation where he's definitely down and under right now. I'm not expecting him to be able to necessarily score a win, maybe at least one map win on that, but I would definitely expect it to be a difficult uphill battle. You mentioned it yourself, actually, Neblime, that he's kind of walking uphill here. Both feet through the snow, both ways, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
And listen, the Pumpkin Terran, the pumpkin color does go to our Terran player, Aoud64 in the top left. Kenoli now rocking the cyan in the bottom right.
I was going to say, it's always possible to take a map off a player with a great deal of preparation and, a specific strategy, or speaking of specific strategies, we'll get to that in a moment. But like I said, that first game makes me think, well, Kenoli doesn't really look like he's prepared anything special here. And that was sort of his only chance. But now EUD definitely has something special here. Already throwing down one stockade. Will there be a second? I want to say no, because he's just getting those masons still. He's not an immediate second. But I assume he's going to send a Huracan straight across. We've actually seen this before, that against Larvosk first, it can actually be very deadly. Let's see what he has in mind. He's getting gas now as well. So maybe a Fulcrum follow-up? Not sure.
Kenoli could almost go for a Shroud opener with the amount of money he had, but he goes for the pool instead. A wise choice, as he's Banking the gas for the inevitable Larvosk.
It disappears so fast when you're getting that Larvosk.
That's right, yep. Oh, he's got enough to do it, but there it is. And
There you
pulled his workers off as well. So a little bit more of an efficient opening here for our underdog Zerg player. That being said, Hurakan being put together here by Aoud, it will be moving across the map. I know that's one of your favorite units, Neblime.
Oh yeah, well it was until you ruined it.
I don't know. He's still pretty Chadley now.
Guys, Panoga just hates fun. I don't know if you knew that. That's why he
That's why I made the game.
removed my like 30 Hurakans dropping on your main.
Dude, that was so cool though. And if you could still do it. I mean, Ramen was doing it.
Like I keep complaining about, my deeds shall never be remembered. No one remembers that I did that.
I know. It is really funny because everybody's like, well, it's really cool when you see Ramen and Aoud doing Terran drops. And you're like,
I'm so sad.
I won a championship with that. That was me.
Yeah, it was so hard at that time. I got to say, I think it was very tough for Terran vs Protoss at that time. Those architects, man, give me those architects now. I'll be having a good time. But anyway, the Hurakan's coming up here. Now, there is going to be some units hatching in just a minute. So just down to micro. Already can only make a bit of a mistake here because what you want to do is send an individual Drolef out to fight it. But it looks like the Quads are out in time. He does give a bit of a burrow, maybe unnecessarily. I don't think any kills are going to go down here. So far, so good for Kenoli. Still got a lot of money in the bank, though.
Yep, could definitely drop another hatch. Instead, he wants to spend down that mineral bank. He's not harvesting any Vespene right now, so it does feel like he might be thinking about posturing with extra hatches. Maybe getting that faster expansion. No worker being sent out just yet. One thing I have noticed is that I think this was something that kind of came back to bite him in the rear end on Check Stealer versus Gerald Storm back in his Battlements group. Is there was a point where he just didn't harvest gas for a very long time, like he might have forgotten to put it back on. I'm not saying that's what's happening now, but there's a little bit of a precedent there as he's now up to almost 600 minerals.
Yeah, well, I mean, a hatch roast on the low ground is fine here. You can definitely do that.
Yep.
And, you know, I got to say, this composition seems not very synergistic so far. Cyclops and Hurakan probably not best friends. The Cyprian's starting to come out now. Still, actually, I got a question. Cyclops and Cyprian, it does use a lot of splash damage. If something gets on top of you, those Cyprians are going to suffer. Now, Kenoli coming across here. He needs to be careful about getting over-aggressive. Last game, he definitely advanced into mines a bit much. Starbag coming up. I'd be very surprised if ED doesn't go for the drops. You know, we have seen it in the past. ED really loved drops, especially with that Phalanx. Dropping from the Trojan. Now, of course, that has been nerfed, but it looks like he's going to be going in for Cyclops drops again, possibly with the Cyprian. So it's still just a trademark here. Ooh, that Vulture spots him. No, he does not want any move in here. He needs to turn around and go home. Although, free Hurakan kill, that's nice.
Yeah, it is nice, but the Cyprian's starting to splash those shots. I love the mine coverage on the south as well, forcing Kenoli to take the longer route. And, you know, getting a little cliff advantage in the process as a result for Aoud. Now, again, you were talking about synergy.
Yeah.
The Cyclops shells doing some friendly damage to the Hurakans as they chase down the quads. So not exactly ideal. Yeah.
So this is actually huge value for Kenoli here. He got a lot done with that. Now, that said, at home, he wasn't really spending his money very well, but neither was AUD. So, you know, both players just like investing in the micro, forgetting anything else. And, you know, so far, pretty even, I suppose. It's like a little bit behind in work account, but he will be able to shoot up, especially with that natural already finished.
That's right.
He's just started.
You know, I'm seeing the second Larvosk. I'm seeing that he's going to be up to 4 larvae every 14 seconds. It still feels like he could have like 2 or 3 more hatches or a couple extra Larvosk by now, but you know, it is what it is. He's got what he's got. And the star pad down, the fulcrum coming down. Aoud going to be really branching out on the tech tree. He's already putting down a watchdog to guard for those pesky Nathrakors that we saw plague the Shambler in his final match of the set.
They are very popular right now. We have no, what do you call it? I keep getting the name of the upgraded pool.
Vornath, yeah.
Vornath, that's it. I keep going to call it like Nafrock, but I know that's not right.
That's from, that's from like an old patch or something. You're still thinking.
I know. We have no Vornath coming up. We do have the Zorkis. Now, that's not going to help you against air. The drop coming in, you know, if it just drops the natural, that's not going to be too bad because there's not that many draw left there. There's a token sort of 2 quads at the back here. Oh, there's 4 of them. So it says a little bit of defense in the main. It's not enough to stop it, but it will sort of distract the enemy units and give them a little bit of time. So that will help. Oh, a lot of draw left just arrived at the natural, and there is absolutely nothing there.
Yeah, indeed.
His army's quite far from his natural. Uh-oh.
He is going to go ahead and unload right on here. What's the crisis response from Kenoli? Does end up losing something like 4 workers as a result of those Cyclops drops, but his quads are already here to accept this drop. Now the battle worker's also biting down a little bit, but look at that. Layering enough explosions down to clear out those 2 quads. There's another 2 guarding the geyser, but they also get evacuated. Kenoli having a little bit of a difficult time dealing with this harassment. And he's going to lose a Larvosk for it as well.
They die so fast, you know. That's actually a little known use of Cyclops drops here, I guess. Oh my god, there's so many workers here. He needs to pull them out.
Indeed, he does. Yeah, you really got to watch out for this situation. Even taking 1 more worker for his troubles. Quazo swarmed the area. It doesn't really feel like Aoud can still get much done here. But still, that was so much value.
Yeah, not critical damage. Kenoli's not out of it, but definitely worth it for AUD, especially considering he didn't lose a single unit.
I know.
Now, he needs to remog that Lavos, if he hasn't forgotten. But he does have the Lickers up. The Lickers? Yeah, I mean, he's going to be Lickers. He's got the Zorkis
seven
up.
of them.
7 Lickers on the way, yeah. And AUD does not have anything that can deal with Lickers here. Like, not a single unit that is going to help him, really. The Blackjacks are not the unit. They cannot handle this on their own. Although he's continuing to get great value with these Cyclops, Kenoli not being proactive about positioning his units. He seems quite stretched here. Still hasn't even... remade that Lavos. Although he's keeping his money down a bit better, probably due to losing some workers.
Definitely helps.
Be careful with that splash. Okay. Ooh. Okay, he almost flew over it. So far, he's keeping alive. You know, I'd love to see him just put a Sprafe down. It doesn't cost that much, and it will save you a lot of pain, because they have a lot of range. Anytime the Trojan comes in, it'll be getting hit and die pretty fast. Looks like he's going to go for the counter, although he's not bringing everything, which I guess he probably can't. A lot of units idle in the main here, though. And EUD has found the angle somehow. Once again, Kenoli out of position. Oh, this is going to be devastating.
He now puts down that Larvosk Remorph. Here comes the Lakis. It's going to go ahead and burrow. That will shut this push down, but not before 2 more workers end up going down. Almost narrowly avoids end up losing a 3rd. And yeah, the Cyclops really can't get anything done versus that Lakis. No detection here for the Force. Nice couple of quads still guarding everything. I don't think that Trojan's going to be able to get it out as a result.
Okay, we'll clean this up, luckily. So finally he stabilizes, but he's sort of missing his window to attack here. That's a lot of Shamans. And Eidolons now as well. Shaman Eidolon probably can handle his Achilles. There's not enough Eidolons built up.
I mean, with 7 of them, plus if he had just a flood of Zeths right now, I actually think Kenoli could still just go for critical army wipe damage at a surprise turn of the hat. That being said, you're right. The window is so thin and shutting right before our eyes. The macro starting to really kick in for Aoud as he has a fully saturated base. Actually cancels whatever that was, going for a Fulcrum instead. So, he's changing up what he's adding, but he really is doing a mix of everything at tier 1, and Kenoli maybe feels a little bit too shut out of the game right now, going for his Hydrith Den. Barely holding on with the Lakis, and no 3rd base in sight for him.
Yeah, I feel like you are right that on paper, Kenoli has the units on the map to attack, but he's just not organized. And I feel like he's been put into such a deep deficit on his APM by this drop that he still hasn't really even recovered from. It feels like he's just not on track, right? He needs a 3rd base like yesterday. The Hydra, if I guess you can make Hydras against this, it wouldn't be too bad, but I don't feel like that's what you need, at least not on this economy. And now he's making a bunch of Zorus, and I feel like he's just been sort of disrupted enough by this drop. EUD very smoothly just getting up a massive amount of production for basically what looks like a 2-base all-in, and Kenoli none the wiser, and sort of not with any clear path here.
Yeah, it could definitely be putting down a couple extra hatch. Obviously, the expansions could help massively. He's also pretty close to being able to afford tier 2, another pathway to maybe stalling the game out a bit for him. Avaleth coming alive here for Kenoli, so he'll have a little bit of detection. Can easily be sniped down by the Eidolons, but still worth pointing that out. And straight into Skiback, not actually going to be going for the tier 2 route. He's going to go for Empowered Air, or maybe just a swarm of Bactylisks. That would sound a lot more powerful here from this position. But first he's going to need all those Hydras.
You know, skiffs might not be too bad. If you had like 30 skiffs against this, you'd probably clear it, but he does not have 30.
Yeah, there's no splash damage at all for Aoud besides the Hurakan, which is anti-ground anyway. So you're right. I mean, there's a couple Cyprians starting to be filtered in, but armor is going to be pretty good for that.
I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, well, this is like quite a formidable army for Zerg, but again, it relies so much on organization, and honestly, from what we've seen, I don't see Kenoli getting the engagement. Look how spread out his units are everywhere. He doesn't have static defense to worry about drops, so he has to keep his stuff back. Okay, he's more from the back doors, but is there going to be time? It just seems to me that Kenoli, though he has the material he needs, is just not set up here, whereas ED is coming very, very efficiently in this big ball to smash through his weak defenses. Still, though, those high ground Lickers are going to be a nightmare.
They are, yeah. I mean, it's also with the Zorus more or less standing on top of them, it's going to make targeting them a little bit difficult once they get on top of things and show Aoud how difficult it can be to actually push forward versus that kind of stuff. That can also contribute. Zorius just really, the big thing here is that there's going to be vision on the incoming Terran army. The Bactylisks are also going to be able to help out if the engagement isn't prolonged there. And you can see individual Lakis spines. There's not individuals, there's many of them. And now the Bactylisks are going to help clear out the front line. Wrapping around though, definitely good. One Phalanx needs to get deployed ASAP. Aoud does still stand a chance with this force. His Anseals not being focused down. We do have some Hydras still helping out a little bit. And crucially, the Lakis get cleared on the high ground. That should mean that Aoud is able to punch his ticket into another win. But falling back, and only does have a couple more Lakis lying around somewhere. If he can get him into a good position, I mean, you could see Aoud is like, what, you don't have a third base yet? Maybe it's at 3 o'clock, and he's going to fly over there and see that there's nothing there either.
The thing is, the Sharpens are actually perfectly positioned there, where they like were maximally healing the spot where the
Yes.
spines were hitting, and also ED did not walk in so that the spines are actually getting much splash. They're really just hitting the very front line. So a really, really fortuitous engagement by ED, or possibly you could say a skillful engagement, really went his way completely. Now ED a bit less organized, but look, he's not going to pull back. He's not going to dive in. A couple shots will go down, but Kenoli cannot commit here. He will get annihilated. He does pull back.
Yeah, I mean, he does clear out a few of those units off to the side, but he loses a number of his front line as a result. Still trying to make those Lakers stay alive, but the Eidolon's sniping them down. Bactalisk's not able to focus fire onto the Antseals somehow. Yeah, you can see it's just impenetrable right now. With no Lakers and not enough front line, Kenoli is really not going to be able to make this happen, it feels like. He's spared for a moment, but Aoud is just macroing like a beast back at home. Everything blinking. Third base set up.
What's Kenoli's path here, right? Like, he's not necessarily dead now, but he doesn't have anything going on that's going to help him to the future. He just has a huge bank that he's just making more hydrogen backs with. Whereas, yeah, ED's got the third, although his worker production seems to be stalling a bit. He's got a lot of production here. Obviously, he needs to scale up a little more, but he's just building up this deadlier and deadlier army. That's the thing about the Eidolons. You don't really have to do anything except build Eidolons, because the more you have, the harder it is for your opponent to deal with it, and he's definitely still building them.
Yes, he is. And also, it's worth noting that the Antseals, even though as limited as they are, only 3 of them, but they never really got destroyed, right? And even now, they're flying pretty carelessly in. Ayo doesn't really feel like he has to worry too much about that. Now returning back in. Bactalisks can definitely deal with the Phalanxes if they're allowed to, because there's no armor on those bad boys when they're deployed. But you can see no split from Kenoli. He's making Schizocores, but they're going to come out far too late to help out and in far too little numbers. That was a very, very big fight here for the Terran. Just grinding him down. And look at that, even dropping tier 2 in the backstab of all this. It does feel like Kenoli's time is, his days are numbered, so to speak.
Again, I was saying if he had like 30 skiffs, maybe, but there are a few Cyprians, I suppose, to deal with that. If he had 30 skiffs 5 minutes ago, basically, if Kenoli had an infinite money hack, he'd be doing pretty good.
That's a big if. That needed to be said. Yeah, this Phalanx positioned pretty far away from any healing or Antseals, but still should end up staying alive. Well, maybe not. One last couple shots there. But at what cost, Skitz flew over a sign from Aoud. He had the one blackjack off to the side there. He's immediately putting down additional watchdogs as a result. His Atlas about halfway complete. That's without a under attack notification, by the way. So Aoud definitely watching the minimap.
Oh yeah, he's on the ball here. I mean, he's in a dominant position, so he's probably looking out for any possibility that could go wrong. And look at that, he's already in position here. You cannot attack with just 8. Look, I'm going to be honest with you, even if the defense is weak, 8 is not the number of skiffs you want. Skiffs are a unit you only make if you make a lot of them. And look, he's going to get absolutely shredded here. There's even Cyprians for splash. Not even going to take a shot. And here we go. Oh, he found the blind spot. What?
There it is. Just to make the caster curse a real thing, but they will indeed be shellacked despite that. And there's even a deployed Shaman to keep the Masons alive a little bit longer. Kenoli must be feeling like nothing's really happening there. He scouted the tier 2. He scouted a little bit of the tech. And he knows that the tier 2 is just about to be finished when he walked in. It is finished now. We can see that. Captaincy's coming down en masse, dropping 5 of them in the natural.
Oh my god. Is it going to be all Madcap Apostle, I suppose?
Certainly could be.
Well, I mean, Olympians would be kind of good to muscle his way in here, because the reason he doesn't want to go in here is because his units other than the Phalanx do not have the range, really, to get through this choke. So I'm just thinking Olympians would kind of serve well in this case.
It doesn't really feel like Kenoli is in danger of pushing out from this position, despite the fact that Aoud's army is not like super well distributed to different places. He doesn't have his like front line separate from his back line. But
if he got like 3 or 4 overlaps, oh, is that more skiffs I saw? What did I just see? How'd you know it's hydrogen? If he got 3 or 4 overlaps and like set up a flanking force, maybe he could actually bust through this. That is a lot of shamans though.
Yeah.
That's the trouble he's going to have here is the healing. Kozla is kind of just going to be fodder for the destruction here. The backlist is going to get him do good damage.
Yeah, they do. They're doing some good spread damage. Not very many Cyprians left, but the Phalanxes are just cracking shell after shell. I don't think Kenoli could have breached this position, even if he had all those Schizocores invested in the extra backs. He needed something out of tier 2, or he needed a better position than being contained. The second game will go the way of Aoud, and we are one step closer to the perhaps destined full quarterfinal set of everybody going 3-0 in their matchup.
Result, yeah.
As was 3 told, apparently.
Flashbacks to first round of Gauntlet.
Yep. Everything was a 2-0, I believe. All right, well, our third map was Rage Slave. selected courtesy of the randomizer, funnily enough, so that's where we will be going. We will see a map that is not the same as the previous series. Now, if I'm Kenoli, I'm definitely feeling like Rage Slave is not a good map for me. But also, I don't know if anybody can really tell what Kenoli feels like. You know, based on his veto, he seems to play things very differently than the rest of us, right? So,
Only Kenoli truly knows what's in Kenoli's mind.
That's right, that's right. So as we get ready for our third match, which could be our final one, could be saying goodbye to Kenoli in the upper bracket, sending him down to the lower, we are going to be talking about whether or not Aoud can make it in flawlessly. Just waiting on the ready for our players. And once we do receive that, we will be heading into map 3, Rage Slave. Now, this is a map that does favor more open army movement, and it does allow for that sort of thing. Maybe Kenoli can get out of his initial little neck of the woods, so to speak. He was obviously contained into his corner for a little bit there at the end of that match. And we are going to see close positions, which might favor Mr. Kenoli and his playstyle. But Aoud, once again, securing that pumpkin color. He is going to be the Pumpkin Terran in the top left, and Kenoli will be down here as the... Ooh, this looks like dark green. And I'm right. In the mid-right. Kenoli's right.
Well, if I picked a color, it would be that green, but I will not pick a color.
Oh, yeah. You're a fan of it?
I am. No gas right now. Is he going to go for the pool?
If he is, it's going to be like I think it's an 8 pool, if he's going to do that.
Yeah.
So,
maybe just defensively. I would have said if you went 6 pool, you'd be hoping for a stockade, to be honest, but there's a couple of Mavs or a Huracan is easy to kill, and like I said, I think a Vulture is just enough to stop a whole thing. Maybe he's going to go for a hatch first, actually, it looks like, which definitely could be interesting. We don't see it much these days in TBZ, but I'm eager to see what the plan is, because he needs to mix it up with something, and this is the kind of thing that ED might not expect. Now, early stockade definitely is not what he wants to deal with. That said, I don't think it's going to be very easy to kill the Hatchrox with like a handful of units. He's going to have to build an anchor if he wants to go for that, so I think he's still just going to end up running in and like attacking draw lefts here. Ooh, double stockade, okay.
Yeah, that's a crucial difference. It's also worth pointing out, though, that Aoud is going to scout second. So... You know, it's best possible scouting situation. Pool only coming down now.
Build the anchor.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit concerned, definitely, for Kenoli's position. His pool is coming down, and I feel like it's probably going to be something like maybe 30 more seconds, maybe a bit longer before we see any military units start to actually gestate. So from that POV...
You want the Maverick first, because you don't want Huracan running in here and causing trouble. Although, that said, I think he is thinking of pushing. Oh my god, Thirst to get. Okay, so it is committed here. He's going to go over a big bio attack. Mm-hmm. If Kenoli can realize that this is what's going on, all he needs to do is get a Circuit up and obviously just keep pumping quads non-stop. If he can do those two things, then I think he can hold here. And look, his Hatchrox is going to be done. So an anchor rush is out of the question now. And even Eud is still at home. So he's not going to have any time for a super early rush. That said, Kenoli not saving any lava here. He doesn't really have any knowledge until just a minute now he's about to find out. He's going to have to be completely on the ball and reacting to this and just prepare with complete military flood.
Yeah, well, he doesn't get in to see how many production structures that is, but he can probably guess at least one, at least one more stockade than normal. We see that it's actually 3 stockades, so definitely a committed move. Now, Kenoli is going to be thinking about dropping that Kagran on the low ground. It would be a good move. Okay, and his quads are hatched, so looks like he'll be able to clean house over here with that Mason Scout. He's not going to be able to get deep enough to see what the follow-up is, but he will see the hatch, and that should make him think, wait a second, maybe I can push this. Vestry coming out, okay. That's going to be the choice here for Aoud. And I love that Kenoli moves out a little bit closer to this ramp. This is the most likely position for Mr. Aoud to move down.
And he got that Circuit, so he's looking good, honestly. He's drawing up a bit more, but given that Aoud is waiting for the Shaman, he still has time switching to military production. I'm just nervous that he still doesn't realize the situation he's in, though. Like I said, to get that Circuit, but I hope it's not a false sense of security, because he needs to start the Quads flood, like, right now. I mean, the Vornaf coming up, I suppose Vorfracors would be okay here. Nafracors, I'm sort of iffy. They might be decent to defend against the Hurricanes, but look at this. Here we go. It's still draw less being made. I don't think he can hold, man. I think Aoud is going to smash through.
Yeah, he's got 3 quads over here. That's not going to be nearly enough to slow this push. Hoping to maybe reflexively, reactively move in. Now, he's going to get 1 Maverick, and actually Aoud does falter his confidence a little bit, but that should be the signal. Kenoli, you're given every chance possible to counter this position. You need to get something up here as far as combat units are concerned.
Second circuit definitely very important here, but you need like I keep saying, to pump the units. Nav's coming out. I mean, it's better than nothing. It's better than making more draw lefts, that's sure. But he still has lava he could be using. Again, Kenoli just not seeming totally organized here, not really ready to respond. Okay, a couple more draw lefts being made. I mean, Edie's given it a lot of time. Maybe the second circuit can come up, but that's a lot of Hurricanes. That many Hurricanes will destroy a second circuit pretty easily. Just starts morphing now. They do morph quick.
They do indeed morph quick, but Quaz morph a little bit quicker. It's going to be 3 pairs of them. That's still not enough for my liking. He is putting a Kagrant in the back. He kind of recognizes. I can use that as my
that's so many Hurricanes, dude.
Circuit as well. But yeah, there's so many. And, with the Nats here, they are just going to get stimmed on. Now, some of the Quaz are going to finish, especially the 2 over here might be very, very important, but they're going to immediately nuke down that circuit. And the second one falls very quickly as well. Nats posturing. That other one in the back never got morphed. Now it's going to get happening. 4 more pairs of Quaz need to be here yesterday, but it looks like that's going to be more than enough for Ayu to push through and finish the job. Now, his Hurricanes are getting a little bit out of sync. They're going to get pulled back and picked off. That being said, there is still a Cleric, still a Shaman, healing up after the stim. Another stim coming out for Ayud. I think he's about ready to finish this one. I'm sure the circuit finishes, but it doesn't even get a pick onto that Maverick because of the Shaman heal. And I think he's done it. 5 pairs of sets not going to be nearly enough. The worker count starting to fall. Star pad behind it. Ministry completing. Ayud has everything. The world is his oyster. He will move on to face Hamster in another TVZ semifinal.
Yeah, pretty smooth cruise to victory for EUD there.
Yeah. I mean, I was a little bit concerned for him because I saw that he hadn't really gotten that much practice, but his fundamentals carried him to victory, and it was not enough for our upstart, our surprise pick, our Kenoli man was not able to make it happen. And that does do it. We're done and dusted here, Neblime. That's going to be all of the quarterfinals decided. We know where we're going next, the semifinals and the first elimination rounds. I guess you could say that things went to plan when it's coming to, you specifically, Neblime, since you were able to take care of Ramen and HitEmUp wins and Ayud wins. The one surprise for me was definitely the biggest surprise, I think, was how Hamster dismantled Shambler there. I definitely thought that was going to be a closer series. But all in all, quarterfinals done. How are you feeling about Ayud's chances? Do you think he's a legit contender? I mean, does this really prove anything?
I mean, he's looking pretty good there, but I feel like that series didn't really test him much, I'm sorry to say. So, like I'm saying, I feel like he does have a bit of a lack of flexibility, and we didn't really get to see that exploited here. And, unfortunately, I myself wasn't able to do that either. So, I don't know. See how he goes versus Hamster, see how that's looking. But then, to be honest, this side of the bracket just looks a lot easier. What can I say? So, I would be surprised if it's not ED who goes through. But then we'll see who has to face in finals, I guess.
Okay. So you're thinking that Ayud will have an easier time over Hamster, even after what Hamster did to Shambler just today?
I have to be honest. Yeah, I think so.
Interesting. Okay. I was going to say Shambler looked like a tour de force. He 4-0'd his group. He comes in, Hamster exiting second place from his group, manages to make it happen despite it. And now, Ayud manages to... I was talking a little bit about this earlier. I was predicting him to win, of course, but when he defeated... when he was playing through this series, I was imagining a world where Kenoli pushes him back, keeps him at bay, forces something out of him, maybe takes a cheeky map. And then during all of that, right, Ayud has to really think to himself, like, I have to show some strategies that maybe I would prefer to keep secret, especially given the fact that the matchup that he's going to be playing against in the future, if he wins this series, right, if he goes on to win it, he's going to go up against Hamster. He knows that he's got to try to keep TVZ in the bag, so that he doesn't reveal too much. And I was thinking maybe Kenoli could get a little bit more out of him, but I kind of agree with you. Not really anything definitive to say after that set. But we do know that the Shambler will face Kenoli in the lower bracket. And of course, Art of Turtle will be facing TopRamen as well. So we've got a couple TVZs in that elimination games that we're going to be playing out next week. The upper semifinal, though, you versus a random player. And of course, Hamster and Ayud. So plenty of TVZs in our future.
Well, not for neither HitEmUp anyway, but I'm thinking he'll roll Zerg a few times. We'll see.
Yes, and you keep saying that you want to face his Zerg more than anything, just because you think he's got a bit of a mental block there. So that's an interesting move. Interesting and bold decision to say that out loud.
I mean, if I go down 3-0 and it was all Terran and Protoss, I'll feel vindicated.
Yeah. But if you go down 3-0 and it was Zerg versus Protoss, you're going to be like, what the
Well, then I guess I'm just bad. I don't know.
Fair. I will say, though, Neblime, it was very, very good to cast with you again. And as I'm looking over at the way that this series went, I am pretty bullish on Ayud being able to make it through in that situation. It does look to me like realistically speaking, looking at what Aoud showed, I mean, he didn't falter whatsoever. He wasn't really too, like, maybe you could argue that he could have finished the matches a bit faster in some ways, but like, Hamster doesn't really learn anything from watching the series, I feel like, other than the fact that, yeah, Aoud has good macro mechanics, good fundamentals. But he didn't really show too many crazy compositions. He didn't really show anything too spectacular. So you're saying that side of the bracket seems easy, but I think if Aoud sweeps Hamster, he might give a run for the money for whoever wins your series, So I'm just saying, just going to throw that out there. I know you're very confident PVT after your taking down of TopRamen, but I'm just saying, there's some stuff there.
Look, I stand by what I said. I was not prepared for Terran to just not immediately make a ministry, but I think I can say I showed you that I figured that out.
Yes, fair. That is true. How are you feeling about
what else is he going to bring?
I mean, he could build 3 fulcrums on one base.
Yeah, then I'll have some trouble.
I will say though, looking over at what I have been seeing, right? To me, it feels like what I'm looking at with HitEmUp as well. What was that message he sent earlier where he was like, I'm going to be cocky until our actual game. Then I'll have nerves.
Yeah.
So,
He's always swinging back and forth like a pendulum, like I keep saying, between confidence and nerves. Look, I don't think the mind games matter that much at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We're going to have to go out there and show good games for the fans.
That's right. What is I feel like that's something that the Koreans say every time, right? Is I will show good games.
That's what it's from.
Yeah.
When they know they're probably going to lose, like, is not favored player, and they don't have anything else to say, they say, I hope I can show good games to the fans, and they lose 2-0 in a really embarrassing manner.
Yeah, so, it is true, but also I wonder if aren't they talked down to or whatever when by people online and pundits? Doesn't it seem like as a cultural affront if they're like, I will defeat my opponent very easily?
Well, some of them do. Some of them definitely trash talk.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, Action vs Flash famously was like, well, it's a best of 7, but I only prepared for 4 games.
Nice.
And so on.
Those are good lines. Somebody should steal those lines, repurpose them for a new crowd.
I think they're allowed to trash talk. They definitely do sometimes.
Right, yeah, but if you're the underdog, I remember people were obviously Barracks ended up losing to Snow in that one of the recent I think it was the last ASL. Yeah. And so that was rough for him. But I did think it was kind of telling that he just went for he's like, I will win. And everybody's like, you asshole, you can't say that. Snow's legendary. Apparently all the Korean fans
Barracks
ripping
is trash talking how he plays, to be honest. So, that's how he is.
Fair enough. Absolutely slaughtered. Well, with all that said, we are looking at our upper bracket being a little bit more fleshed out and put in. I am happy to report that the favorite for this match did end up sailing on through, as we were mentioning. The sort of narratives that I tried to push in those hype videos ended up coming to pass, that despite not too much practice or warm-up, Aoud was able to make it in, and Hamster's more chaotic nature was able to dismantle the Shambler. Gotta give an in for every player, but that's sort of how we had it set up here. So our upper bracket looking, I think, quite competitive. Neblime thinks only one side of the bracket matters, and of course that is also coincidentally the side that he's on, so that's good to know. With all that said, though, what do you think?
We've got Kenoli here. We can hear his thoughts about it.
Oh, is he actually ready to go? We can do an interview. Absolutely. Let's bring the man in. Hello, Mr. Kenoli, start location man himself. You have been sent to the lower bracket, cast down. What are your general thoughts and feelings after the series of events?
Hold on, I gotta mute the stream.
Double prono go. Absolutely. Everybody needs a little more prono go in their lives, right?
All right, I'm ready.
All right, you're ready. So I was just asking more or less, how are you feeling after the onset of games there? And perhaps more importantly, knowing that now you have to look ahead to yet another versus Terran matchup in that lower bracket against the Shambler after what Aoud just did to you.
I don't know. I felt pretty good. I kind of vaguely had the plan of using Naths to clean up the well, I guess for starters, I kind of imagined that there would be these compositions with not a lot of anti-air.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really have any particular reason to believe that, but that's what I was imagining. So I was gonna have Naths come in and just fight the main army and get rid of those, and then just pick off the other stuff. And it kind of looked like that was gonna work for a second, because I had tons of vultures in the first match,
mm-hmm.
and then big ball fire bats for Arakan
Yep.
In that last one, but I just like didn't get enough naths soon enough. I think if I had done that a little faster, I would have been in much better shape.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say, especially on Rage Slave. If you had those Nather cores out in a good number at that point, that would have been doing stuff. You also did end up going hatch first into a build that was very aggressive. But even still, I feel like in that kind of position, you had an opportunity to hold. How are you liking that sort of style? Was that more of a spur of the moment thing, or had you actually prepared hatch first versus this kind of play?
Oh no, I haven't prepared anything. I actually haven't played in several days for reasons. But I think what I really needed to do, like on Rage Slave, there was just build like 10 circuits in my natural.
Can work. It seemed like you had a notion that he was going to pressure, but did you realize he went like 3 stockades immediately in his main?
I had an idea that was happening because there were like so many units when I first scouted his ramp.
Yeah. Well, it's tough to tell with no full scout, I guess.
And I was kind of like, I had those 3 quasis at the ramp, and it like repelled his like first, his first push a little bit there, which was surprising. And I felt like, okay, maybe, he's not doing like a big push, right? He's just like looking to see if his few starting units can do some damage. And
Well,
maybe he's gonna expand instead of like do like a timing attack. But no, he just made a ton of units and killed me.
Well, that's very interesting because we were watching it right when he came to that ramp, and we thought, oh, he's kind of screwing up a little. EDs because he could clearly have smashed through 3 Quasilisk, and he sort of like ran back after losing Maverick. We're like, oh, it's a bit of a mistake not to push in, but I guess it serves as like a mind game at the end of the day. I mean, do you feel like in general you were able to sort of scout and figure out what ED was opening with?
Yeah, I guess I kind of, owned myself thinking that he was pulling back like that. I don't think he intended to like, trick me like that. He probably,
I don't think so either.
Yeah, he probably saw like, oh, I'm getting attacked at this ramp. There's probably like a big ball of quads there, and didn't realize it was just the 3.
Yeah, reflexively pulling back after getting a little bit of damage. That actually happened to him on Near Impact as well, where you had a few quas kind of stationed around in a few places, and it ended up being pretty useful for you from the perspective of like, hey, I'm delaying his push. Because even though it was like one quas that was attacking an Anseal at some point with his big ball of army, he like pulled the whole thing back kind of just on probably without even looking at the minimap, right? So that's just the kind of thing that it sometimes does happen as a reflex that, in theory, could be done as an option to riposte, right? So, yeah, I feel like that's a pretty good a tactic to be able to use. But it, like you said, maybe a little bit of an owning yourself in the context of you're like, oh yeah, he's gonna fall back and not attack me. So you had a little bit more time. I have noticed you do sometimes try to play around the margins of like what is possible to hold, like really tight rope walking. HitEmUp used to describe Zerg as that. Do you have much of a feeling about that? Like, the constant pressure and difficulty of like, oh, I got to watch out because if I build too many workers and not enough military units, then I might get absolutely destroyed or whatever, right? So is that something that you find enjoyable to play with, or is it something that is difficult for you to map onto? Like, what's your take on that sort of dynamic of the race?
I mean, that's definitely a thing, but I kind of favor just going like all in one way or the other. Like trying to get like just the right amount to hold is like really hard. But if you just kind of roll the dice and go straight drones or just go straight units, it tends to work out a little bit better.
I guess that's true, isn't it, Neblime? Like if it works out, you'll kind of look like a genius and to completely absolutely unassailable, right? Because you've got all the units you need or all the workers you need. Dude. And then if it doesn't work very well, you'll find out very quickly because you'll be dead.
So when I went Ministry first on Infinite Velocity, it was actually a 400 IQ move. My opponent didn't appreciate that. That's why they sent units through the Nidus and fucked me up.
Yeah, dude, those were the days. I feel like, you know what? We should actually have Infinite Velocity back for a show match. That should be a really
All right,
good
I'm quitting. I forfeit.
It's for the show match, not for the real thing. Come on. It's fine.
Show match between people who aren't me.
Okay, gotcha. Well, you
We
can
could
cast
do
it,
a,
right?
Showcase of maps we used to force people to play on.
Yeah, that's basically why we added
Main
Mame
Street.
Street. You know, we did have Arbus and Mystery Meat on Mame Street that one time. That was really good too. That was the turning and everything. Beautiful. All right, well, Kenoli, at that, we are going to be looking at the end of the quarterfinals here. You're looking down at the Shambler. I know you practiced a little bit with him before your series today. Any takeaways from those games? You feel like you know what you can do?
Those warm-up matches were basically all I got.
Yeah, right.
So, I was winging it.
And with that situation, though, do you feel like you kind of, especially since there's a little bit of footage to watch, if you happen to go back and check out the series between the Shambler and Hamster, might give you a little bit of a blueprint for the matchup versus him. Of course, there's adaptations that can come in on both sides, but how are you feeling about him as your opponent?
He's definitely, he, does some things that most of the other players don't, so it can be hard to deal with.
He always wants to know your worker count. You probably haven't had him ask you that, but maybe you have. I don't know. Depends on how often you've played with him. But besides typing, he does definitely have a different sort of style there. However, that being said, there's going to be plenty of time for you to think about a response because our next matches won't be until next weekend. So you're still in it. I don't think I really properly ever asked you this, Kenoli, but are you going to be you're going to be splashing your cash, your winnings from this tournament on anything in particular, or you just hoping to? Is that even a motivation? Because I think we did talk a little bit about in the battlement stage that like you playing in an organized tournament or whatever. It's not something that has happened too often before. So how are you? You're still in a tournament. You're getting all the pomp and circumstance. The hype video features you and all this other stuff. How are you feeling about your odds to go further? Are you just happy to be here, or do you actually rate yourself as somebody who can take Shambler down and absolutely destroy him back-to-back TVZs?
Yeah, maybe. I'm slowly mastering the art of the comeback.
See, this is what I like to hear, Neblime.
As far as prize money, I don't know.
Depends on how much it is, I guess, at the end of the day. Could be a pretty penny. We never know. Any final questions here for our guest, Neblime? Any thoughts that you have based on what you've seen or heard?
How you feeling about Zerg balance-wise after that?
Nerf blackjacks?
Okay.
An interesting prospect. I might consider this. I mean,
busy nerfing Protoss.
Realistically speaking, I did have that one line at the end of the one of the matches before. Oh, it was when Neblime beat Ramen. I was like, I'm so glad to see Protoss deeper in the tournament. I really want to just nerf Protoss some more. So, I need that excuse to do that. So, yeah, we'll see if that goes. But hey, with that said, thanks for being a good sport and doing the interview after the fact. Looks like Ayud is waiting in the wings to speak with us as well. So any closing thoughts or final words before you depart and we see from you and hear from you in a week or so?
Nope.
All right. Thank you, Kenoli. GG's. Good luck in your next match. And we might as well bring in Ayud as well. Hello, sir. Victorious in the... well, actually, are you even back in... I was about to say victorious in Venezuela, but I don't even know if you're back there. What's going on, dude? How are you?
Hey, how are you? No, actually, I haven't been in Venezuela for 10 years now.
Okay, so it's been quite a while.
I'm living in Chile right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to say victorious Venezuelan then. And in that situation, you have gone a step further in the upper bracket. Those games looked pretty comfortable from our POVs. How did they feel for you?
They felt surprisingly good to me. Since I haven't practiced too much, I just wanted to prepare some strategies, and most of them were focused on timing attacks or micro-oriented strategies. Since as far as I know, Kenoli has a pretty good mid-game where I wasn't so confident, against Zergs because of the lack of of time to practice. So I figured I would, just prepare a couple of short but yet powerful strategies, timing attacks, and rushes to test Kenoli's micro. Looked like it worked pretty well.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the Vulture move on Genesis Y definitely was able to eventually overwhelm him. And then even beyond that, we think about the way that your moves worked out when it comes to the play that you were able to make happen in, I want to say, like, Near Impact was a bit more of a macro-oriented game, but that 3 stockade bio opener that you did on Rage Slave, even though you scouted him second instead of first, it still gave you a nice little leg up there. So you have those in your back pocket, which is definitely going to be deadly for any Zerg facing you, including Hamster, the Russian Zerg you're going to be playing in about a week's time. With that being said, how are you feeling about facing off against a more experienced Zerg player? You think you're going to be able to get some good practice in so you can feel a bit more confident in the mid game? Or are you reckoning that based on your schedule, I know you've been a busy man lately, do you think that instead it's going to be a bit of a bit more of like, oh no, I'm just going to have to keep doubling down on this early game aggression?
I think from now on, games are gonna be decided by a coin flip, because anybody can take the games. I believe the rest of the games, the players that are still in the tournament, they all are really good, and it's anybody's game. So as far as I know, I've played some games against Hamster, and I would say we are somewhat like 50% win rate each. So I think anybody can take the whole series. I just I hope I have some more time to prepare my games. I believe if I have to win against Zerg players, I have to be tricky with my drops. I have to be proactive in the minimap. Maybe, I really want to use bolters more, but I think they are only valuable in the earliest stages of the game, not so much in the mid game or towards the mid game. I tried to use some mines to be fancy against today against Kenoli, but I don't think it mattered too much. Except in the first game. But I think, I'm going to focus on my micro. I believe I have a pretty good micro, maybe not so much of macro. So I have to take advantage of my strength. Maybe try to fix a little bit more when it comes to macro games.
Okay, fair enough. You are going to have to double down on TVZ, which you notably did not play in the Battlement stage, but you did defeat Gerald Storm 2-1 in the Gauntlet, and that was one of the... you also were able to defeat Art of Turtle in that lower bracket as well, so you've got a little bit of experience versus Zerg. You might have even played Jack Yelansky, if I'm trying to remember all the matches in the Gauntlet, but you played through a number of the Zergs, and you definitely had... taken out some big names. Obviously, everybody's, especially myself here, you have our respect for defeating Mystery Meat, the guy who was the most winningest player that we've had so far. So not really anybody else in the running to change that anytime soon. I guess maybe the closest would be HitEmUp. So with all that said, you got a nice little bevy of names to your, sort of scalps to your name. And with that being said, going up against Hamster, this would be a nice little test of, really, this is where the magic happens. You say it's going to be a coin flip, and you're saying that that's going to factor in truly, even if you do get some practice in. How are you feeling about the way that Terran can approach Zerg? Do you feel like it's a difficult one? You said you have to be tricky, but... You think that there's enough tools for in the Terran arsenal, or do you actually think that maybe there's a little bit of a game deficit versus a strategic one?
Now that you ask it, I've been playing some games against Night Fox. Before my Kenoli matches, and we will argue because he would say that I played too aggressive against Zerg, and especially. Against a player like Kenoli, that he likes to be aggressive. So he believed I was at a disadvantage, but I truly believe if you want to take down Zergs nowadays, you need to apply constant pressure. You cannot let them drown, because they can just press 2 buttons and all of a sudden they are ahead. and it's incredible what they can do with the larvas and all that larva, in a blink of an eye. There is no way, unless you have scouted beforehand to prepare for whatever strategies they may come up. So I think that Terrans, it's their duty or obligation to dictate the pace of the game if they want to have a chance. That's why I tend to be aggressive. I tend to apply constant pressure against the Zerg, because I believe if the Zerg has the control of the game, then once they get to higher tiers, it's gonna be really difficult for the Terran player to to control the game and attain the victory.
Interesting. Okay, so you're going to be looking to pressure in the early stages for sure. With all that said, you're looking at a pretty heavy prize pool here as well. I just asked the sort of like double down on that question, that little questionnaire that I had given you guys for the little thing about like, oh, what are you going to spend your money on? At this point, the deeper you get into that tournament, the bigger that prize share is, and even the difference between like say 4th and 5th place can be pretty staggering. So you feeling good about getting one step closer to a nice big lion's share of that prize pool?
Yeah, I haven't really thought too much about the prize, not because I don't feel confident, but because I wasn't really sure if in what I'm going to spend the money if I ever get to win everything. I guess I was just playing to to support the community, and because I really enjoy the game. I think Cosmonarchy is one of the things that give me a little bit of peace at the end of the day. About the question and of in what I'm going to spend the prize money, and I remember I wrote something like sleeping pills, as a joke, but nevertheless I've been having some issues with that, dealing with some other personal stuff. So I just hope that everything comes up nicely at the end of the day.
Sure. Yeah.
Keep playing some more Cosmonarchy and see the community growing much more. And I guess if I ever win, I may end up upgrading my PC parts. Maybe I try to do a little streamer setup and trying to focus some time on that, because that's something I always wanted to do, and just trying to get the necessary time to put the work in the streaming part of my life.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, just from the stage A, from the gauntlet and the battlements, you got a $55 already USD. But the throne room stage is where the real money is. So every time you get a little bit deeper into the tournament, you're going to be, getting closer to that big jackpot. Because somebody was asking about Hapsea was asking about the prize pool in the chat earlier. It's for the whole tournament, it's over $1,700. For this one throne room stage, right now we're at like I think $1,100, $1,200 just for here to be doled out to all the different people. So yeah, it's probably you could probably get a good upgrade on that. I don't know what the price of PC parts is these days, but it's it can be pretty steep. But nonetheless, you might be able to score like a nice little graphics card or something. And hey, we could always use more streamers, so just remember that.
You can definitely run Cosmonarchy in a $1,500 PC. That's no problem.
See?
Yeah, man. I think for me the money is secondary.
Yes.
I just want to keep enjoying the game and seeing
Yeah.
it develop even further. Be thankful for you to you guys for make all this possible. I'm really having a great time playing and watching the streams. Whenever I have some times, I try to also watch the videos. So the prize money, sounds really good. I hope I get some of that.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Ayud. Any questions for Ayud before he departs here, Neblime?
Pinogo sort of asked this a little bit, but what are you thinking about your future opponents? Like, if you want to have to play Terran or Zerg, or maybe even Protoss, which you prefer?
As far as the matchups go, yeah.
That's that's a tough question, because I believe all the players that are left, they are really good. I definitely don't want to face HitEmUp. I still haven't figured out a way to take a single game from him, and it's ridiculous how good he is, and he has become in the past few months. And I guess I would like to meet Ramen again, because when we played and he beat me 2-1, I felt like I didn't quite know the current meta. I also didn't have the opportunity to practice some against him too much. So it would be nice to meet with him again, and have some nice games.
I think so too. That'll be a really cool matchup, and I do think we've got some really cool mirror matches in Cosmonarchy as well. I don't think obviously some people think they've got their different favored matches, right? Like some people really like ZVZ because it's so bloody. Other people really hate ZVZ because it's so bloody. But still, I think TVT, there's definitely layers to it. You can be aggressive. You can be more strategic. And it is admittedly a match that, where each individual match can take a little bit of time. But I don't know. That being said, I'm liking the mirrors. I'm thinking that we're going to get some. Of course, there's a chance for Protoss mirror in HitEmUp Neblime next week. That's already going to be pretty cool if he ends up finally getting some toss. He hasn't played Protoss since the qualifier, but it's random.
That's I would say that's a game I'm really looking forward to. The game against HitEmUp against the Shambler. If that ever happens, because I think they have a little bit of beef.
A little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I'm being generous, but I don't know. I think if there ever comes to be a PvP, even with you, Neblime, I think PvP are very interesting. Maybe some silly games too. But we are in a tournament settings, and maybe some kind of crazy strategy comes up and entertain us all. I really enjoyed your game using the rivers. Well, it's not called a river, but
all good.
Yeah. But I think that move was genius, and really makes me think about my current strategy. I think you figured out a weakness.
Well, like I was saying, every loss is a lesson, right? And you kicked my ass in battlements, so I have to learn from that.
Well, yeah, I think we can all learn much more if we lose than if we win. So looking everything on that perspective, I think we have a little bit of advantage against HitEmUp. I'll be rooting for you, Neblime.
True. We will catch up eventually if he never loses. It's true.
Yeah. That's right. HitEmUp's got to keep winning so he can start losing. You heard it here first, folks. All right, Ayud. Well, I hope you... I will say one final shout-out for your amazing profile picture that you sent me for the videos, and appreciate your words and your words of praise for the game, but also just the fact that you're still here, still playing, and glad to see you make it one step closer to that grand final where there's so many people that could make it in there. HitEmUp's definitely one of them, but everybody else, that second place spot, I mean, come on, we need a couple more people signing up and getting in there, see who can lose to HitEmUp. It's a race to the grand final for that. But no, in all seriousness, thank you, sir. And good luck in your matches. If you want to say any final words before you leave, you're free to. Floor is yours.
Just wanted to say that I'm very thankful to you and all the other guys that are supporting this project, and they also that make some time to practice some games, and I hope that I keep continuing playing some good games for you, and you find everything really entertaining. So yes.
So you could say you want to show good games for the fans.
That's right, just like all those Koreans.
That's the point. That's the point.
Just like all them Koreans. Well, we still got games going on right now if there's people who still want to do some more practice, of course. But shout out Ayud for getting through 3-0 over Kenoli, setting up our TVZ second semifinal, and of course a bunch of other TVZs that we got in the lower bracket. GG's, my man, and we'll see you in a week's time to get that next match played. Good luck.
All right, GG's.
Neblime? I think that just about does us. Any closing thoughts or final words for the overall broadcast here as we send the quarterfinals packing? We've got our next matchups set up. HitEmUp versus you, Neblime. Hamster versus Ayud64. And then down in the lower bracket, Art of Turtle versus TopRamen. And the Shambler versus Kenoli. Any bold predictions, final thoughts, closing remarks?
Yeah, I'll say this. You're not going to catch me casting again. I'll be somewhere else.
You'll be somewhere else? The upper final?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you'll be grinding is what you'll be doing. All right.
I will be.
In that situation, Neblime, good luck on your matches as well. Thank you for joining me for the cast. Always a pleasure. And to everybody else watching at home, let's just say you can stay tuned for some more casts. We'll try to preview some of these matches. I'll see if I can dig up any practice games between all of the players as a nice little preview for what we might be seeing. And thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting Cosmonarchy, donating to the coffee, be it for prize pool or for project development. And we will see you probably sooner than a week for all the other people out there. But if you're just tuning into these broadcasts for the tournament games, we'll see you in a week's time. GG.